I'm watching the video of Trump grabbing his ear. I'm thinking, that's when I slip my hand into his pocket and take his wallet. Like, I mean, that's my qualification.
We are going to have...
If he were to go down, we run up his credit cards immediately.
And by the way, yeah, we're going to have former legendary CIA agent John Kiriakou, who was also in prison like you, but he was only in there for 2 years, put in there by the CIA.
He was... Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not like in another country, in the United States.
In the United States.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, exactly.
What did he do for that? What did he do for that?
Well, he was one of the guys responsible for taking down one of the top guys in Al Qaeda named Abu Zubaydah. And he was a part of a raid that captured this guy and eventually killed. No, he's in Guantanamo. They never killed him. But the story about how he captured the guy is crazy in, I think it was Pakistan. And John's been through a lot of shit. And eventually, that's when the enhanced interrogation shit started happening with the CIA, where they set up these black sites around the world to basically torture people and get information from terrorists. And John was blamed for it because he was the guy inside the CIA complaining about it. Like, why are we doing this? This is against the law. This violates the Geneva Convention. Right. And they're like, stop bitching, John. Stop bitching. And then somehow it came out and a reporter contacted him from, I think it was ABC, and said, John, Bush is on TV saying, yeah, look, there's the photo of the supersonic bullet. Yeah. Bush was on TV basically saying that, talking about the enhanced interrogation stuff and saying that there was a CIA operative who leaked it, and then John thought he was talking about him, so John's like, "Fuck it, I'm going to go on live TV and talk about it." So John went on TV and blew up the whole enhanced interrogation shit the CIA was doing, and then they got him for espionage, something like that, some bullshit crime, put him in prison. What is going on? But John knows a lot about this stuff, and essentially, so like, Julian's been talking to his paramilitary folks, and I've talked to a couple guys, and the one thing that seems to be insane about this whole thing is that they fucking didn't put anybody on those roofs that were 300 feet, 150 yards away. And as we sit here in our air-conditioned room with our microphones, we can, we can tell
know
them
everything. We can critique.
We do know
critique
everything.
Exactly.
We can critique what they did wrong, and let them know that they need to be better. Yeah, this is the video. It didn't have all that shit around it though. Like, it was a very much clearer video, I think. But yeah, watch this head tilt.
Yeah, that would have
boom right there. How crazy is that, dude?
I tell you what that would have done. It would have, if it hadn't killed him, it would have taken him out of the race. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that would have took out his whole visual cortex of his brain.
Yeah, I think he would have been a vegetable. That's not good.
If it didn't kill him, it definitely would have fucked him up permanently. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest with it, let's face it, the bullet...
That probably would have killed him.
It probably would have gone through the initial...
It would have gone right through his temple.
No, because that was the side here. That's the side. I'm saying it would have gone into his skull and probably, jumped around inside his skull. Like, it may not have exited his skull.
Yes, right.
It bounced off.
Would have tore up his brain out.
It'd be scrambled eggs.
Yep. It is so crazy how that head turned so last minute.
Listen, I remember...
It was the hand of God.
Listen, Jess says that.
I know.
She does. So we watched this, and at first I was like, I think that clipped his ear. And Jess was like, no, maybe does he have an earpiece? Like, because we didn't know right away. We're still watching it as it's happening. Mm-hmm. And then when he stands up and he's got the blood on his face and starts pumping his fist, it was like, oh wow, he was hit. Right. He was definitely hit. Because everybody, even the commentators were like, was he hit? Like, I don't, is this, but when he stood up with the blood, it was like, holy shit.
So what are the conventional, so what are all the theories on what happened on the news? You've been paying more attention to this than I have.
What's your buddy's name?
Forrest. Yeah, Forrest.
There's a whole group of people on the internet that are insisting that the Trump campaign itself hired some sniper to take a shot at him and just to clip his ear. Yeah. Like
that is no
for theatrics, like this will push him over the edge. Like, he's already over the edge. Like, this isn't, not just that. Any sniper will tell you, listen, the wind blows wrong. It can always be off half an inch to an inch or whatever. And the fact that you're going to get him to turn his head at exactly the same. Trust me, as he was turning his head and that dude pulled the trigger, when that guy pulled the trigger, he'd have probably still hit him. He's turning his head. I mean, that's what that bullet's traveling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's just nobody in their right mind that would hire a sniper to fire, at their head. It's just insanity.
It's amazing how there's so many people that believe that is true. That's Trump derangement syndrome at its finest.
Then there's the other ones that no, there was a real sniper that tried to take him out, and the kid's a patsy. That's my favorite because that's very much the Oswald. He's a patsy. Lee Harvey Oswald, who was, people say like he didn't shoot Kennedy at all.
Right.
So
yeah, he was the fall guy.
Right. He's just a fall guy. And honestly, what a great fall guy. Like he is perfect. Like if you really look at it, like, is there a chance? Like, yeah, it seems like it's possible. There is definitely a chance. Like nobody's ever going to know for sure.
Why was he perfect?
Because he'd been to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Then they let him back in.
Right.
Then it's almost like he's being moved around. And then the fact that when
he tried to redefect through Mexico City right before, like a week before.
Right. But then the last minute, so he gets a job at the Texas Book Depository, and at the last minute, they change the route of the car to go by the Texas Book Depository to be on the route. It wasn't originally on the route. Like that to me, that's the most compelling part. Where it's like, so we've got a guy that looks like a perfect assassin. He's got he's a we can blame it on his views of communism, everything. Let's just have the car go right by it. We'll have another sniper shoot him. We'll blame it on him.
Right.
And hopefully he'll just be killed. Hopefully the local cops will probably kill him.
Yeah.
But they don't. He gets found. He gets grabbed. Okay. Well, now he's got to die some other way. The Ruby thing is where it kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
Ruby is probably maybe that was just an accident. Like they were hoping he would be killed by the local cops.
Ruby was definitely not an accident. Ruby was a part of MK Ultra. So when Ruby was in prison, he was getting visited by.
You think prior to this he was set up to kill him?
So Ruby was in prison before. Was Ruby in prison before or after he killed Harvey? Lee Harvey
he'd definitely
Oswald?
Been in prison prior. I mean, he'd been in and out of prison. He was kind of like a mob guy. He was like a hanger on.
So in the book Chaos, the Charles Manson book with the CIA by Tom O'Neill, he talks about a guy named Jolly West, who was a CIA sort of like psychologist and chemist. I believe he was a chemist, but he was doing tests on people with LSD. On criminals specifically. And there's documented reports that Tom found that Jolly West visited Jack Ruby in prison multiple times and spent hours with him. And Jolly West was very much a part of MK Ultra, the mind control experiments they were trying to do in the 60s.
And you don't know whether that was prior to.
That's what I'm trying to find out. So, yeah, we'd have to find the book again, or maybe you could Google it, Steve. But I think it was prior to him killing Lee Harvey Oswald. I think it was very much set up for him I don't think they wanted him alive, and I think Jack Ruby was probably a part of that plan.
Well, I don't know. We're never going to know.
Right. We're never going to know. Yeah. Right. That's true. So again, okay. So there's the group of people who think this is, I think, the least plausible explanation for it, that Trump somehow hired the campaign set up a guy
they orchestrated it
to orchestrate a bullet to fly an inch past his fucking skull.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no way. Right. First of all, he didn't need that to win. He had already won the election after that debate with Biden. There was no shot.
Right. So the second one is the kid's a patsy. They're kind of maybe watching him. They know he's got conservative or whatever you want to, liberal leanings. He's made a few. They haven't opened his phone yet. So you don't know what that phone, but let's say that NSA has been tracking his phone and they pick somebody and they say, this kid's 20 years old. He's a shooter. Like, we know all this by watching his phone. He's a shooter. He's extremely radicalized. He's donated to the Democratic that Democratic pact. I mean, what, $15? Not like he's a huge supporter, but he's also 20. So he's made all of these posts, or who knows what he's made. We don't really know yet because they haven't gotten the phone. But let's say the NSA
they haven't gotten the phone still.
No, well, last I heard that the FBI is trying to crack it, trying to get into it. It's not that easy if it's got a passcode. So
it seems weird that they wouldn't be. They wouldn't.
I'm sure they'll get into it, especially since they had that Apple thing where they cracked Apple.
Yeah.
But anyway, they said they hadn't. Maybe they have and they're still reading it. Who knows? Anyway, so let's say the NSA already knew they've got 50 different people that could be homegrown kind of assassins, and this kid is one of them, and he's a shooter, and he's kind of a loner. And they say, hey, you know what? If we could get this kid to the rally. And maybe somebody stops by and says, "Hey, let's help radicalize him, get him to the rally, plant some bomb material into his car, which they found, and we'll get him on the roof, but we'll have another sniper shoot at Trump, and Trump just happens to turn his head and it misses. Who knows? So that's the second one, is he's a patsy, and this is maybe some, who knows whether it's the Biden administration or what these people believe.
Well, I mean, he's not just the patsy. He's also clearly the shooter, right?
No, he's clearly going to shoot, right? But Oswald was probably going to shoot. But can we rely on him to kill him? Let's get another person we know can kill him. So let's say that happens. So that's another kind of a scenario where there's another sniper, but the kid's really the fall guy. Okay, that's another one. So those are the two oddball scenarios. The true scenario is the kid's probably radicalized. His father's saying he knows nothing about it, right? Kid kind of radicalizes himself, figures out how to get to the rally, figures a way out on the rally. He obviously had lots of different plans because
he did?
Yeah, because he also had bomb material in his car. So it's like maybe he thought, hey, can I get on the roof? I probably can't even get on the roof. And he actually, but if I don't get on the roof, then here's what I'm going to do. I have this bomb material in my car. I'm going to throw it in the crowd, or I'm going to throw it under Trump's, SUV, or I'm going to, who knows what he's thinking. But he obviously had alternate plans. But what happened is he got out there. He said, I can get on the roof. He gets on the roof. He does the army crawl, up the back of the roof. The Secret Service agents see him. They call it in. Other people, spectators call it in. There's a guy up there with a rifle. There's a guy crawling on the roof. The Secret Service agent is told not to take the shot, to allow them to check it out first. They send in the police. Police officer climbs up the ladder, approaches him, says, hey, what's going on? The kid turns around. So Crooks turns around with his rifle, points it at him. The guy gets freaked out, jumps backwards, and actually falls off the roof.
The cop.
The cop does. So he falls off the roof. Crooks immediately turns around, gets into position, and starts firing at Trump very quickly. And so the Secret Service agent that had been told not to fire takes him out. He'd been told to wait. We're checking it out. So he goes ahead and takes him out.
Because he heard the bullets flying.
He heard the bullets flying. So he says, fuck that. This kid's, it's over. He shoots him.
From what I understand is the sniper that we all see in that image on the roof, or the video on the roof, where there's two of them.
Right.
That are basically like kind of parallel to Trump, but facing the kid.
Right.
Is that they had scoped in on that guy 5 minutes prior.
Yeah. I heard 3 minutes, but yeah.
I heard it. So I heard it was 5 minutes from a guy that I heard that actually talked to him.
Okay.
I don't think I can say who it was yet. But
a significant amount of time is what it was.
5 minutes. And then he radioed his superiors telling them about that. And they said, stand down, do not take the shot or whatever.
But that's most likely because they had said, hey, let's get somebody up on that roof to see what's going on. And that's why they send the police up there. So the local cops, the sheriffs, right? They go and they find the ladder and they climb up there.
Okay, but the scope on that sniper can see the fucking boogers in that guy's nose.
I agree.
You are telling me that those snipers can't tell that he's got a rifle in his hands?
I agree, but they called it in. Keep in mind too, you don't know that he actually had the sniper rifle on Trump at that time. At that time, he may have just been Army man crawling slowly up the roof, and they see a guy crawling. Maybe he's sliding the gun. They don't know if he's got a gun. You don't really know what he called in. And then he calls it in, and they say, okay, wait a minute, we're sending somebody over there. is he? You don't know whether he said, well, I don't know that he's immediate. He's an immediate threat. At that moment, he may not have known that. Now, once the officer falls and the kid turns around and immediately takes aim, as soon as he sees that, it's like, holy shit, the kid starts firing, which luckily he was obviously anxiety. He's panicked. He just starts firing.
Yeah.
And luckily he doesn't get a good shot.
Right.
I mean, with the scope and you're only 130 yards away.
Steve,
you're going to hit him.
Steve, can you play the video that basically does the countdown of the people screaming at the guy that's climbing up?
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
See, like, they don't really know
So
that he has a rifle.
watch.
What's happening?
See, there's a cop down there. Watch.
Because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy because we have millions and millions of people in our country.
They're talking to the officer.
That is insane.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that it's much tougher than it happened. In recorded history, we had the best border. In fact, if they
It
could
showed
ever
the
put up a
cop
chart, I don't know
walking
if they could do it.
along
You
the
guys
side of that
have
building,
access
looking
to
up
that chart
at the
that I
guy.
love so much. You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you?
This is the
Because these
one.
teleprompters are damn boring. I'm trying to explain that. Oh, is it? Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right?
Minute
that's
20.
when I left office. That
So
was the lowest
it's been a minute
point,
20
and that
since the
comes
guy was
right
spotted.
from the
Right. So
government
they've sent the cop has
services,
probably
comes right
climbed
out
up.
of
He's climbing
Border
up right
Patrol.
now, right?
Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest
Finds
amount
it, finds
of
the
illegal
ladder,
immigration ever
puts
in
the ladder
recorded
against
history into our country.
the
And
roof,
then
starts
Minute
climbing up
40.
the ladder.
React.
the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country.
Now, what's this? What's going on here?
I think they're walking just towards it.
Now, look right here. Why are these guys shooting these people off from behind Trump? Now they have radio. Look at the snipers. Can you pause it?
Okay, now
Oh,
he's
he just shot. So right before the bullets came, the Secret Service were basically like shooing people out from behind Trump. You see them like rushing people out, photographers. There's a guy sprinting.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to see something that says...
All right.
He's turning this way. Be careful.
the bullets. Just could you imagine?
So it was 2 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well,
that's good.
like I said, they said the sniper had him in his sights for 3 minutes. So whatever, 2 to 3 minutes. So, but keep in mind that time period there. At some point, supposedly, somebody went up on the roof. A police officer or a sheriff's deputy, whatever, actually went up on the roof, and the kid turned around and frightened him, and he fell.
Yeah.
I heard that from. I'm only saying that because I heard that from two different news organizations. Both of them said the same thing. Like, no, they actually came up on the roof, but as soon as he did it, the kid.
Steve, have you sold those little UFO things yet?
No, sales are just too daunting for me.
That's why we're sponsored by Shopify, man. With Shopify, it doesn't matter how small you are or what you sell. They help you sell it everywhere.
Across the globe, from their all-in-one online platform to their in-person point-of-sale system.
Turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout platform.
At 30% better on average compared to other platforms.
And sell way more with considerably less effort with Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. As I've mentioned before, we use Shopify for our website that we use for the podcast to sell our merch. It's easy. It's user-friendly. Anyone can set it up. It takes like 10 minutes to set up to connect your domain name to it. You can set up discount codes. You can upload variants of different merch. It's unbelievably easy for anyone. There's no comparison. Shopify hands down wins.
Wow, Shopify's award-winning help powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S.
Steve, you're going to find it to be a breeze with Shopify. So if you guys want to check out Shopify and help support the show, you can sign up now for a $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Danny Jones. That's all lowercase. Shopify.com/DANNYJONES to grow your business no matter what stage you're at. Again, that's shopify.com/Danny Jones. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
He obviously panicked and started firing. He's like,
Right.
I got to fire now. These guys are coming. They know I'm up here. This guy just fell. I got to fire.
Right.
And so he just, bah, 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 bah.
So my question is, if the snipers knew that the kid was up there 5 minutes when they're 5 minutes prior to the shooting, and they're radioing into their superiors, telling them about it, and they're saying, don't fire on him.
Right. Why not fire on him?
For 5 minutes, are they not focusing on him for that entire 5 minutes? Or are they just like chilling?
I think they are. Oh no, I'm sure.
Are they just like-
they've got him in his sights, right?
Right. Okay.
Like, I
So
wouldn't take him out of my sights.
So the second he pulls the barrel of his gun up, they're seeing that, right?
Right.
So there was obviously quite a bit of delay to when he pulls his barrel up, looks through the scope, finds Trump, and starts popping off. There was probably what? How long do you think that would take? 10 seconds?
Yeah, I was gonna say 5-10 seconds. Seems like a long time.
Seems like a long time. And then go down to where Trump was. The Secret Service dogpiled him pretty much immediately. It's
Yeah.
pretty quick, like 2 or 3 seconds it took them to dogpile him. Then he stood up after, I don't know how long that was, but he stood up. And then the guy's like 6'3". He stood up and he's towering over these guys. And they're like a couple of them, one guy, the guy who looks like Andrew Schultz, he's like holding his hand above his head. Another guy's like holding his hand over here.
Right.
Like, and Trump, he barges through 6 of them to do his like fight thing.
Right.
And if this is like a JFK scenario where there's multiple shooters,
They take him
like a
out.
triangular hit team,
Right.
Trump's fucking done. Wide open. His head was wide open. They let him stand up and because he said, hold on. And he got out and they didn't know if there was another shooter.
Right.
Maybe they got it in something in their ear. You could hear like the radio chatter. They're saying like, what do we do now?
They're
Where are we
probably saying
going?
shoot her down.
Shoot her down.
That's probably
shoot her-
why they stood him up and said,
Yeah.
let's go.
And they didn't know if there was another shooter or not. So if there was another shooter, he'd be gone.
But then again, he's too big to carry. It's like they need his help to get
Yeah.
off the stage.
Yes.
It's not like they're going to pick him up and start.
Still, they're the fucking Secret Service, and there's like 6 or 7 of them.
Right.
And then there was the one Secret Service lady. Did you see her hiding behind everybody?
little tiny one?
She was like cowering down behind everybody, like hiding.
Yeah. Well, diversity hire.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, if I'm 6'3", you're Steven.
Yeah.
If I'm 6'3", you don't get to be 5'2" and protect me. Like I feel like that's a lot of me that's still
Right.
available.
Yeah.
And these are the main parts that people shoot at. Like I'm gonna need a taller broad in here. She's gonna have to be at least 6 foot.
Yeah.
With heels. I'll take her with heels. Platform shoes, something. Can't get a 5'1", 5'2" chick. No. I mean, for me, yeah, that'd be fine. But no.
Yeah. And it's easy, like I said, we're sitting here in air conditioning with our microphones talking about what they did
Yeah,
wrong.
of course.
I was talking to this guy.
I'm not saying I know anything.
I was talking to Rick Prada, who's a legendary CIA paramilitary guy who he was a counterterrorism special forces clandestine operations specialist for the CIA. He was in Nicaragua and Costa Rica, like in the 80s during Iran-Contra. He's been in a lot of these situations. But he wasn't a part of the Secret Service, but he actually trained with Secret Service in like the 80s and the 90s. Trained with those guys, and he knows a lot of them. And he was like, his point was that like, yeah, you plan for this stuff a lot, but he goes, in every single situation like this, whether it be in combat, in war, in black ops, or in a Trump rally, he goes, after the first bullet flies, you can be as prepared as humanly possible. But after that first bullet flies, your plan goes out the window.
Right. It's the Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly. Everybody's got yes, exactly, man. He said everything goes out the window once the first bullet flies.
I think everybody's screaming about the Secret Service agent too. I think that also, look, they have like an action plan, right? Like they got it all laid out. They know where everybody is. They know everything. But if you've been with the Secret Service and you're dealing with the local sheriffs, deputies and cops or police stations and everything, like these people don't work well together. Local sheriffs and police don't like the Secret Service. The Secret Service think that they're morons. And the truth is that when you lay it all out and you look at all, and first of all, and the rallies are happening one after another after another. Can you imagine how quickly they have to? They're constantly seeing different plans, and so that sniper on the roof looking at this guy, you and I can say, you saw him, you saw he had a rifle, you should have shot him. Well, one, you don't know how long he knew he had a rifle. It may have only been for a few seconds.
Right.
He's being told, stand down, we got somebody up there. We got somebody going up there. Oh, okay. So in your mind, you're kind of thinking they've got it handled. And the other problem is that during this period of time, what if he sees him and shoots him and finds out, oh my gosh, we didn't have those buildings, we didn't have enough Secret Service snipers to have those buildings covered, and we agreed to let the local SWAT team station a guy on the roof, and that was the local SWAT team guy. He wasn't a part of our action plan. Oh my God, you just killed a SWAT team member. He's been a police officer for 25 years.
Right.
And then you're like, and then they're saying, we told you to stand down. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I get
I
it.
do. Yeah.
I mean, everybody's screaming, you should have known. I get it, but you don't know everything that's happening in this guy's head. He's being told, no, 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 no. And he may be thinking, yeah, I think I know where everybody is, but what if I don't? And I'm being told to stand down. Now, look, let's face it. Once a kid got up and started firing, he shot him.
Done.
Does it take him 3 seconds to make sure he's going to shoot the right hit the kid? Maybe that's what took 4 to 5 or 6 seconds. Maybe it took him 3 seconds to realize, oh
Make
my
sure
God,
you got a perfect shot.
active fire, and another 3 or 4 seconds to get a perfect shot, and boom, takes him out.
Yeah.
A lot
'Cause
faster than I'm going to take.
if you think about it, I mean, I've never shot a sniper rifle, but I imagine, like, look, if you would want him to take the shot quicker, but if he took the shot quick and missed,
Oh, yeah.
imagine the time it would take to reload it.
Yeah.
Then it would be that would be way worse for sure.
Listen, look, it's obviously that.
But there was 2 snipers.
Yeah,
Possibly
Did you
4.
see how they were also kind of like looking at the scope, kind of checking, like what, like
He
what-
jumped back and grabbed it,
Yeah.
and the tripod kind of fell back.
Yeah, they're both like what? Obviously, there was
That's
action
gotta be
happening.
the most boring fucking job in the world.
It's like being any law enforcement.
Sitting on a roof for 4 hours.
It's tons of boredom with 2 minutes of complete fucking adrenaline.
I mean,
you know?
how many hours has this fucking guy spent on roofs looking through a scope and nothing has happened?
Yeah.
Right?
Imagine how many snipers spend their whole lives and never fire at a real person. But I mean, it's so easy to what do you call it? Second
Monday
guess.
morning quarterback him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what the real problem is. Why was no one on the roof to begin with?
And it was so close.
Like you couldn't put a sheriff's deputy sitting up there on you couldn't give him a
Right.
fold up chair?
Right.
I mean, some fat
Right.
sheriff deputy couldn't have sat up there?
Well, they didn't. I mean, they should have, but they had a guy. They had a sheriff deputy walking around, climbing up the ladder.
Yeah, but
they don't have a radio. They don't have a radio. They're not on the same channel as these guys. Like they can't go squawk squawk. What's your 20? We got a fucking kid with a AR-15 on the roof.
What about the
30 clicks to the right?
What about the guy that's a part of that committee that was in Congress that was trying to pull his dude?
They were trying to pull his Secret Service
what are you
detail.
What are you doing, bro? Like here, whether you like Biden or Trump, it's like the people that, and this is tons of people on TikTok. Like, I'm amazed. My videos will get taken down on TikTok if I say the word gun, or if somebody says something even slightly. We're telling a story about a guy who pulled a gun, or telling a story about a guy who's selling drugs. They get community violation, this and that. But you got people on there right now saying that too bad the guy missed. He should have been a better shot. It's too bad. Oh my God, he almost got rid of this guy, Trump. And it's like, the thing is, when people say that,
At least they're consistent, right? They're calling him Hitler, and they hope at least they're being honest. They've been calling him Hitler this whole time, and now they're basically saying that they're pissed off he didn't die.
Right.
At least they're consistent. There's also a group that's saying he's Hitler, he's Hitler, he's Hitler. Oh, our thoughts and prayers are with Trump.
here's the thing: the same people that are saying that he's a threat to democracy want to take out democracy. Like, this is how we're voting. This is one party, this is the other. That's democracy. You want them to take out one of the two parties.
Yes, yes,
If I say
100%.
he's a threat to democracy, let's take him out. Like, are you fucking insane?
Yeah.
Do you know how insane that sounds? Like our country's built on voting. Like, just vote. Like, figure it out. I get it. I think Trump should have, what do I think? Oh, him denying that he lost the election. Bro, you lost the election. You know what I'm saying? Like, you lost. I get it. There's this, there's that. There's all kinds of issues. There's some extra ballots here. These weren't counted. I understand. But in the end, it's over. Like, quit denying, quit that. Just say, look, I lost, but I'm going to get it next time. That's fine. I don't think it was fair, whatever. I lost. You got that. But to sit here and say that I'm going to take out the other party, like, that's just insanity. Like, what kind of a person are you that might not like Biden, but I don't want the guy to die. Yeah. I don't want to take him out.
The kid was a fucking 20-year-old whose brain was not fully developed yet and is probably on a junk load of SRIs. Ritalin, yeah, maybe Ritalin, antidepressants. Every school shooter in history had a laundry list of fucking pharmaceutical prescriptions.
What about his dad? Like, his dad hasn't.
I don't know anything about his dad.
Oh, his dad's just saying, like, he's like, I have no idea why he would have done this. Like, I didn't see any signs that this was an issue. None. That's what his father's saying. The other thing is, then there were people in the comments who were saying, because he's a registered Republican. The kid is. Yeah.
Apparently, that's what a lot of Antifa people did.
And then they're saying but there's also people saying, yeah, he voted for Trump last time. Well, he couldn't have voted for Trump last time. He would have been
17 years old.
Yeah, he would have been exactly
16 years old.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, it makes no sense. People make these they say these things immediately. And then I had another guy, I watched there's a couple of these where they're like, he's a registered Republican. He voted for Trump the first time, but he's now been so disenfranchised with all of Trump's lies. He decided to do the right thing and get rid of Trump. It's like, he didn't vote for Trump.
Right.
Like, everything you're saying is ridiculous. Like, you're just making up stuff. So anyway, well, those are the conspiracies that I've heard. Have you heard anything? What are your thoughts?
The one that I heard today from a friend of mine who is, I won't say his name, but he was in the CIA, and I don't think he wanted this to be public, but this was just what he told me in privacy, in confidence over the phone, and I haven't heard this anywhere else, is he believes that this guy was not acting alone. He believes that he was coerced into doing this and subverted into doing this by an intelligence agency who is not the CIA.
Right. Well, that'd be the Patsy thing, right?
He thinks that this guy was coerced by a foreign intelligence agency of another country.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had not heard that. Okay.
No,
sorry,
neither had I until this morning when I talked to my buddy.
No.
And he said that the one intelligence agency who is the best at doing this kind of shit, taking mentally unstable people like this and getting them to commit terrorist crimes.
Mossad?
Iran. Oh. No, not Mossad. Mossad just gave Trump like $100 million.
I don't know. I threw one out there. It was a Hail Mary.
Mossad's the one that's protecting this guy.
Oh, yeah. They love
Trump.
Right?
Oh, yeah. What did he do? He moved the what did he do?
I'm not saying they did it.
He just moved the
embassy.
The embassy where? To Jerusalem?
Yeah, he acknowledged.
Oh yeah,
the capital or whatever state.
But this guy said the IRGC is the best at pulling off operations like this. Well, I mean, he failed. He wasn't a great shooter. But this is very
you can't account for the fly
typical
in the ointment,
of what
right?
they would do. Yeah,
you can't account for the guy climbing up on the ladder and saying, "Excuse me, what are you doing?"
The cop.
Yeah, you couldn't account for that.
Yeah. So if it was a foreign intelligence agency, how did they just get lucky that the fucking Secret Service was so incompetent?
I wonder how much bomb material he had. Like that I wonder, because like, okay, let's say he got out there and he said, okay, I can't get on the roof. Like there's no way, there's too many cops. I'm never going to be able to do it. Fuck it.
That was his backup plan.
Right.
Maybe.
Then what was his backup plan? I'm going to go get my car. When Trump leaves, I'm going to shoot right up next to him, and I'm going to pull this lever, and boom, my car will blow up, and I'll take him out too. Like it was, or I just don't understand how much material he had in the car. Like they haven't said that. They just said it was bomb-making material. They had to get the bomb squad. It was bomb-making material. Whatever. I just don't know how much.
Was his car nearby?
I don't know. There was another thing where they were saying about the Secret Service, like how did he get his vehicle parked this close to to the rally? So in my opinion, they're alluding to the fact that it had gotten through security, that it must have been close for them to be blaming the Secret Service. Like, how did they not catch this? Well, they didn't catch it because it was a mile and a half away. Like, they never saw the car. That's one thing. But the stuff that I'm reading makes it sound like it went through security somehow. Well, I mean, maybe had it in the trunk. The guard sniffing dogs didn't get it. Who knows? So I don't really know where it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at who has motive to want Trump gone, I mean, just look at the last couple years. I mean,
why would Iran want him gone? Like Biden's the one who's bombing Iran. Like,
yeah, well, Iran, obviously, they don't have a good relationship with Israel. Saudi Arabia and Israel are kind of aligned against Iran. Iran doesn't like the three-headed dragon that is the three countries that are our biggest enemies are China, Russia, and Iran.
Okay.
So it would probably be one of those three, right? If it was. Those are our biggest enemies in the world. North Korea is to an extent, but North Korea is more like just like a nuisance to us.
How do you get to a 20-year-old? How do you turn a 20-year-old?
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm assuming that's going to take some time. His father's going to miss him for the 30 days it's going to take to break this kid down, brainwash him, reprogram him, stick him back.
That's what Alex Jones is saying. This has got MK Ultra written all over it. Like he was fucking brainwashed.
Well, I mean, his dad. It's not like you would think when the authorities showed up, he would say like, well, he was gone for 90 days. Just got back a week ago and said, hey, Dad, I'm going to a rally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or he got back, he was gone for 90 days, showed up and said, Dad, can you order this rifle for me?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like who has motive, right, to take out Trump? Well, I mean, look at the fucking United States. They went after Trump. He beat the impeachments. He beat Russiagate. He beat the civil cases. He beat the 34 bogus felonies.
He did. Well, no, he didn't beat that. He has been found guilty.
He was found guilty of the felonies, but it put him in a higher regard to the American public because everyone saw through the bullshit.
So what it did do is, you're right. What it did do is it didn't destroy his credibility, which is what they were hoping for.
Right.
Like if we indict him and we try him and we convict him, it will destroy his credibility, not realizing that absolutely didn't harm him at all. It actually made him more popular.
Yes, exactly. The whole show trial basically showed, it was like the Streisand effect, kind of.
What's going to be more interesting is that when the state of New York appellate court overturns, like if it actually gets overturned by the appellate court, then it's just one more slap in the face. Like, hey, you tried me. You had a little banana republic kangaroo court put together.
Yeah.
And you guys found me guilty, but then when it got to the appellate court, they overturned it. And guess what? I'm not a felon now. So you guys had a good time calling me a felon, and now I'm not a felon. And then the document case was just thrown out.
They just threw out the fucking classified document case today.
Yeah. So that was thrown out.
Why did they do that?
Well,
how crazy is that?
I think it was suspended for a while because there were so many things that the.
Can you find an article on that, Steve? The classified document case being dropped.
There were all of these kind of things that the FBI that had done. They had withheld evidence. They had staged photographs. Like there was all these things that made it look very staged, and as a result, the judge had kind of like suspended it for a while. Like, we're going to suspend it for a while. Mm-hmm. And then he finally just said, you know what, I'm throwing it all out.
Trump's classified document case dismissal by Judge Eileen Cannon. So can you find out why they did it? Or if there's if you can skim through it or find an article that explains why they did it.
It said ruling on that one, Stephen.
So I think, I read it earlier, but I believe it was because something about the prosecutor. By the way, did you see the Alex Baldwin thing about his case?
Oh, they dropped the charges, right?
They dropped the charges, yeah, because they withheld the evidence about the bullets.
No, what?
Fucking insane. Judge dismisses classified document case against Trump. Blah, blah, blah. Ruled that the entire case should be thrown out because of the appointment of the special counsel who brought the case. Jack Smith had violated the Constitution. He indicated he planned to appeal. So he's going to appeal.
Okay. Well, that's not going to do anything.
Right. So, yeah, it's just crazy that this happens 2 days after they fucking tried to kill him. Like they're giving him a straight shot. He has a straight shot. He's essentially the president-elect right now. So it's just can he survive to January 20th?
That's the thing, right? Like I talked to this guy, and a guy I interviewed actually for something else, but we were texting back and forth, and he was like, you know, everybody thinks like, because I was like, oh, he's walking straight into office now, and he's like, yeah, but you have to understand. He's like, you're assuming he survives,
right?
This guy's got a lot of highly publicized events between now and then,
yes,
where he could be taken out.
Yes.
Like if they were smart, they'd retreat and say, okay, we fucked up. We'll try again. You know, in 4 years, we'll get another guy in. We'll get somebody in.
Yeah.
Or they say, hey, let's double down. We'll just take him out at all means possible and try and bury the evidence and get away with it.
So I was watching Alex Jones videos all day.
Oh my God.
And he's saying that they're going to go for broke now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
he's saying
they lean all in?
They are going to go all in, balls to the wall. They're going to kill this motherfucker. And he also said that after he wins the election, he said, don't be surprised if you're going to see a lot of false flag events happening. Like he claims they're going to fucking run truck bombs into like black churches and stuff and try to incite some sort of a race war and blame it on Trump supporters. Like trying to target minority communities and use those as false flags to incite some sort of a crazy civil race war. And then, Julian fucking said it best on his little live stream he did yesterday. He said that if that bullet would have hit Trump, he said it wouldn't be a civil war. He's like, civil wars, that's cute. You think it's going to be a civil war. He goes, that's going to be like the bullet that took out Franz Ferdinand that started World War I.
Right.
He goes, it's going to be World War III if that would have killed Trump. You wouldn't be able to go outside, dude.
You still haven't seen Civil War.
I haven't watched Civil War yet. No, I got to watch it.
Did you ever watch the video where the kid goes over how a civil war would play out today?
Oh, I haven't watched the whole thing.
Wasn't it? Oh, okay.
I haven't watched it. I need to watch that. But you told me about this though.
Yeah, he breaks it down so good. He's so like he could care less. Like it's like he's just matter of factly like here's this, here's that, here's how many National Guard troops are in this state. Here's how many. He just breaks it all down very clearly. Like this is why they end up winning. Here's why.
Who wins?
He ends up saying that the South wins because basically what he does is it's not even against necessarily. He assumes if you were to break up the states exactly the way it was split during the Civil War, right, the Confederacy and the Union, and you took the same states, he said, well, the states are much different now. There's a massive difference now because now there's infrastructure, there's all kinds of things, and you have all these National Guards units, right? So you assume that the National Guards units go with the states. So now Florida has how many different, you know what I'm saying? So basically if you break it the military apart that way, you're on pretty equal footing. The real problem is that he's like, look, you don't have to invade California. You know, what you do is you just cut them off from their water source, which is coming from out of state, and electrical, which is coming from out of state. Like also food. They don't make enough food to feed themselves. I mean, yeah, they have yams and fucking, almonds and stuff like that, but that's not enough to feed you. Like they've got a bunch of foods that they do produce, but not enough to feed their entire population.
Right.
So he's like, and the interstates, there's only like 3 interstates that basically go that way. He's like, you just cut those off.
Right.
It's not hard to stop them from feeding themselves.
Right.
The Confederate states can feed themselves. So he breaks all, same thing with power lines, same thing. He basically is like, you don't even have to attack. You just starve them out. And he was like, so if you take that plus battles, if the battles are fought and you base it on the numbers, he starts doing the numbers too. Listen, he lays it all out. And in the end,
look,
the North doesn't win. In a protracted battle. They just don't win.
Yeah. If there was a civil war, I don't think it would be like a Democrat versus Republican type thing.
Right. Well, I mean, he's basing it off of what if the Civil War was fought today? That's what his.
But if there was
is.
a civil war fought today, who would be the two fighting parties? It would be obviously like Republican, right wing Trump, or even libertarians, Trump types.
Which is comical, by the way. One other thing which is comical, because during the Civil War, the South was the Democrats. The North were the Republicans.
Yes.
So that's comical because it's actually
Lincoln was
swapped.
Lincoln was a Republican.
Right. So now it's like Florida is Republican, Texas is Republican.
Yep.
Like you start adding them
It
up.
swapped during Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy was the one who changed that.
So
So Kennedy, when he was running, John Newman explained this beautifully to us. What happened during the Kennedy election was his campaign ran an operation to basically market themselves in black churches all around the country, and they recruited like a preacher to go around and basically give these pamphlets and these flyers out to all the people in the black churches to try to win over the black vote. He was also, I think he was talking. I don't know if Kennedy actually met with MLK, but his brother did.
Right.
And
for sure.
And this was like a last minute thing, and it swung the black vote like crazy.
Well, Martin Luther King was a Republican, so they went after the yeah. You can look it up.
There was a word for it that he used. I forget what he called. He called it you could probably find it, Steve. I forget. There was a great word for it.
Because up until Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, right, up until that era, the Republicans were the ones who were pushing through all the legislation for blacks, right? So up until that point, and they flip-flopped it.
Yep.
They said, you know what, this is not going well for us.
Right.
It's going to happen. So we need to take on this agenda. We need to make this agenda, take it away from the Republicans and make it a Democratic agenda. And they did. They very successfully over the next several presidencies did that, which was super successful.
What were we talking about before we talked about JFK?
Oh, we were talking about if a civil war were fought today.
Yeah. But before that, we were talking about. Oh, you were talking about. Okay, yeah, you were talking about during the Civil War. You were saying the South were the Democrats.
Yeah,
the slave owners.
Yeah, they were the slave owners. That was the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
All the cotton farmers. The whole thing was all Democrats. Listen, Democrats didn't like the Emancipation Proclamation. Democrats didn't vote for that. That was all Republican. Like all of these things were Republican agendas. But then, you're right. Kennedy, good-looking guy, goes in there, like you said, black churches, gets a bunch of reverends, starts pitching to them civil rights, and takes that away from the Republican Party. Like brilliant, bro. You have to admit that's brilliant. Like this is this is one of their winning campaigns. Let's take that from them. Let's make it ours and make them the bad guys.
Yeah. I think it was after the Civil War, there was the Mexican Revolution. I think it was like in 1910, I believe. And Mexico used to basically contain all of Texas and most of all of New Mexico and lots of Southern California. Mexico was massive. It ate up a lot of the current United States. And then after the Mexican Revolution, they did a deal.
When was the Mexican Revolution?
Can you find that?
Sure,
When was
210? I can't.
I said
believe
1910.
Well, you said 1910.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Can you find out when the
1910?
Mexican Revolution was, and then find out show the map of Mexico before the Mexican Revolution, and 1910. I got it.
Wow.
Woo! Look at that, bro.
Man, had no idea. I wouldn't have even said it was. No, I would have.
And then show us a map of Mexico before the Mexican Revolution, and so after we got Texas, right? It was so big, and obviously Texas, like the whole area of Texas was slave owners, right? And
that doesn't seem that big.
They wanted to divide. Look at that, bro. That's not it. Is that it? You can't really tell if you can't see the whole map of the U.S. Anyway, so they wanted to cut Texas up into a bunch of states, so they would have more voting power for slavery. And they were like, no. F that. That's why Texas is so big. They had to make it one big state so they didn't get more voting power, like more states.
Right. So, okay. So you only get a few senators.
Right. Exactly.
So,
But yeah, it was all about like control of slavery.
did you ever see In the Line, back to assassinations, did you ever see In the Line of Fire
No.
with Clint Eastwood?
No.
Oh my God, bro. What a great movie. I mean, what a great Clint Eastwood movie too. And he's probably in his 60s when he did this movie. He plays a Secret Service agent that was a part of JFK's detail when he gets shot. And so it's like literally 30, 40 years later, and he's still a secret, he was the youngest Secret Service agent at the time, longest running Secret Service agent. And what happens is they end up going into an apartment where the landlady comes into the apartment, there's something smoking, whatever, and she accidentally enters the apartment and finds this wall filled with photographs of the current president and bullseyes on his head and all these different schematics of different rallies he's been at, shooting points, that sort of thing. Like, oh my gosh, this is somebody who's planning on killing the president. He goes there to check it out because she calls the Secret Service. A couple days later, they come, they check it out. Clint Eastwood's character is the main guy. Well, while he's there, the shooter sees him. So the shooter sees him and realizes who he is and starts communicating with him. And so they know that that this assassin is planning on killing the president. And it shows how he ends up getting himself to a position to kill the president. And John F. Kennedy said, anybody can kill the president as long as they're willing to trade places, as long as they're willing to forfeit their life, right? And this really, if you watch this movie, let me tell you something, bro. The way the guy gets close, he basically, and granted, there's money involved. So what he does is I don't know if it's Republican, the president is Republican or Democrat. Let's say he's a Republican. So what happens is he ends up, it's John Malkovich, right? He's the shooter. So he starts donating. So he's got a fake name, fake driver's license, fake everything. His company's fake. It's got a history, everything. And he's continually donating to the party. And so eventually the Republican Party, whatever the chairman or whoever is involved with the chapter that he's, friendly with, eventually he says, hey, there's a rally coming up or a dinner, a $10,000 plate dinner. You pay $10,000. There's 500 people. They raise $5 million and you get a picture with the president. So you're going to be next to the president at some point. So he gets himself invited to this dinner, and he's built himself a composite gun. He makes a Dillinger, a very rudimentary Dillinger, right, with two bullets. And so it's two bullets. He has a fake stomach, and now this is obviously before the really good X-ray machines that swoop around you and can really check you out.
Right.
Builds this gun right here.
Wow.
And he puts it in the fake stomach. And the bullets he has in a rabbit's foot. So when he goes through the metal detector, he puts it in the little tray. Ching, his keys, the rabbit's foot with the keys.
A plastic gun?
But no, not the plastic gun. The gun's in his stomach.
Plastic gun's in his belly, but that can go through the metal detector.
Right, because it's composite with no bullets in it. The bullets are in the rabbit's foot, which he throws in the tray. You know how it used to be you would throw all your keys in the tray. So the rabbit foot has the bullets in it.
Right.
Throws them in the tray, walks through, they pat him down, no problem. He goes to sit next to, close to the president. Under the table, he puts the bullets in, puts the gun together, and then as the president comes along and shaking people's hands and you get a picture taken with him, he's right next to the fucking guy with a gun that has two bullets in it. Bam! And then he can shoot himself.
Wow.
I'm not going to ruin I'll ruin the movie. If it's been 30 years or 20 years, nobody's going to see it.
Go ahead, ruin it.
Obviously, Clint Eastwood at the last minute runs and jumps in front of the president, takes the fucking bullet. The guy shoots somebody else and gets on the elevator with Clint Eastwood, and it's a whole thing. Saves the president. But the point is, if you watch it, you're like, man, that seems like it'd work. Like, how hard is it? Listen, I got a buddy, Donovan Davis, the guy from The Gap, that story I wrote.
Yeah.
Donovan's got pictures with George Bush. I had my old Rudy Arnotts, which is a guy was one of my business partners. He has photos of him with where he paid $10,000, or I think he paid like $5,000 to go to a fundraiser for Bush. He's got photos of him with Bush.
Wow.
You know, so it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's money involved. This guy probably donated $50,000 to $100,000 to get, and this is 30 years ago. Maybe it's a couple $100,000 to get yourself in the same room, but it's not. It's not that. If you're willing to realize, like, hey, once I fire this, like, I'm dead. They're either going to kill me or I spend the rest of my life in prison. You know, most people are just not willing to do that. They're just not. No matter how politically polarized they are, they're just like, look, I just don't want to die.
Right.
Like,
There's not people crazy enough, right? Like this kid that just did this the other day. I mean, he was clearly out of his fucking mind.
But crazy enough. Here's the problem: is if you are crazy enough, you're usually not competent enough. That kid just happened to be crazy and competent.
Yeah, how competent though? I mean, he knew how to shoot a gun, but he didn't really know how to shoot a gun. He wasn't a good shooter.
Listen, if that cop hadn't been up there, if that had gone down a little bit different, he may have killed. Actually, I think the sniper probably would have killed him. But that could have gone. He fired 8 shots there, going right by Trump.
Right.
That one hit him. I'm thinking that's maybe not 100% competent. It's pretty close.
Yeah, it was
more competent than I want my assassin to be.
It was pretty fucking close. You know, I've been thinking the biggest fucking thing that I can't get over here is like everybody. I would say what percentage of me? I mean, what percentage of people think that this guy was a lone nut versus this was the CIA? I feel like that's the two main camps that areas of belief here with this whole situation. I think a majority of them believe that it was the CIA or the deep state trying to take out Trump because there's so much stuff that's happened in the last few years with the show trial in New York, with the 34 felonies, now the Russia Gate, all this stuff.
I was going to say,
look who has the motive. The United States apparatus, whoever's running this thing in the shadows, is the one I believe that has the most motive. Whether this is true or not, I don't know, but it seems like that's what the consensus is of most people on the internet that I've seen.
You know what's really like, what did Trump do last time that was so bad? He had 4 years. If he was going to do something insane, he would have done it.
Right.
And plus, there's checks and balances. A president doesn't have that much power.
What did John F. Kennedy say a month before he was killed? He said he was going to remove 100,000 troops out of Vietnam every month for 4 months. So 400,000 troops out of Vietnam. That was a military coup. The Joint Chiefs of Staff did not want that to happen. They had a crazy nuclear war plan to nuke China and Russia. Kennedy and his brother wanted nothing to do with it, and he said, "Fuck you guys, I'm pulling out all the troops." A month later, he's dead. What did Trump say? Trump said, "I am going to stop the funding to Ukraine for this war against Russia, and I'm going to end this war."
Right.
Then then a fucking bullet flies a half-inch away from his fucking temple.
It's 8 of them.
I mean, it's really, you got to have, there's got to be, I mean.
And they killed that poor guy in the crowd. Everybody forgets about that guy.
I know, the poor fucking guy.
He's just sitting there. He's just at
the
a rally.
firefighter, no less, trying to protect. His daughter was there. His wife was there. And there's still people that want to say that it was fake. Like, get the fuck out of here. So this is my biggest problem with this is like, it makes sense until the bullet misses him. Because if it really was the CIA, Trump would be dead.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just a fluke. He turned his head.
They would have had a backup plan. They would have had multiple shooters. You would. I mean, I'm sure I really find it hard to believe that if it was the military or a U.S. agency that they would have missed.
Well, keep in mind too, maybe the first thing is let's send in this kid. Maybe he's competent enough to pull it off. Maybe the second one is okay.
I guess he's human, right?
Yeah, he wasn't competent enough. But don't worry, there's some more rallies coming up.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, don't worry. He'll be out in the open again. We'll get him next time.
Right.
We have to, clearly, like, what we need is some shorter Secret Service agents. Can we get 5'1" female agents?
Jesus Christ, dude. The fact that he has the goddamn balls to keep doing this stuff.
I know.
He went golfing the next fucking day.
I know.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
He did there was a report from the cart boy who's he goes, I watched him do a 20-foot putt with a 2-foot break. He sunk the goddamn putt and said, the difference between me and that shooter is I don't miss. What a savage,
Come on.
I mean, Jesus Christ. You can't
make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up. You can't write a better script, dude. And then with what he showed so much fucking fearlessness and defiance when he was going,
anybody else would be like,
fight. I mean, like
anybody else is like, give me the car, get me out of here, get me out of here.
Yeah, right, for sure,
Right.
for sure.
He was like, nah.
It is over unless they fucking find a way to kill him, man. And I really hope they don't. I really fucking hope they don't, because it's going to be utter chaos, and I hope you have a passport to another fucking country if that happens.
The insanity that we're having this conversation, I mean, the country that I grew up in, like, this is insane. I don't remember people getting shot. Reagan got shot, but this was a lone nut job, you know?
And
like,
he was also 5 feet away from his car.
Yeah, this was like...
And you never saw him after that bullet went off. They dogpiled him, and you never saw him after that.
Well, and they talked to, you know, the thing is, he was left alive, and you knew right away what the issue was. He was infatuated with Jodie Foster. He'd actually gone to rallies. It just happened to realize, oh, what? Reagan's going to be here? Oh, I'll go. Maybe I'll get a shot at him, and took a shot. But there's never been any, you know, XK Ultra, what was it called?
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
Right.
You know, nobody's ever said anything, but this was just a lone nut job.
Anyways, this guy, Danny Sheehan's a lawyer. He worked on the Watergate case, and he worked on the Pentagon Papers case. He worked on the Iran-Contra case. Guy goes back, right? He's been in like all the most famous cases in the United States. And he was explaining to me the whole backstory of how Kennedy got killed. It's fucking wild. He was saying that when Nixon was running for president, he was running against Roosevelt, and Roosevelt dropped out, and then Nixon thought he had a straight shot to win the presidency, right? No, he never thought for a second that Kennedy was going to beat him.
And he was winning in the poll. Kennedy was losing in the polls until they did the
thing with the blacks. Yeah.
No, I was saying that they did the debate, and Nixon did, because Nixon was sweating. He did so badly in the debate.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah. He starts sweating, like he keeps having to wipe it. Then Kennedy, even though he maybe just held his own.
Yeah.
But Nixon looked so bad. He's wiping his head because it was super hot. But he's also nervous.
Right.
Kennedy,
so it's exasperated. Yeah.
Kennedy's a good-looking young guy, well-spoken. Like, you know what Nixon looked like. Like, he looks like a terror.
Yep.
I mean, and they go through the debate, and Kennedy just came off much, much more smooth.
Right. So Nixon was the head of this thing called the 5412 Committee, which was part of the national intelligence, and it was basically, he was like a part of this committee, the 5412 Committee, that was part of covert ops for the CIA. And after Rockefeller dropped out, everyone thought Nixon was going to be the next president.
Okay.
So Nixon wanted Castro whacked. For some reason, he thought that if he could set up an assassination on Castro to line up with his presidency, it would be great. So what he did was he contacted Howard Hughes, the airplane guy.
I know, yeah.
Who fucking, right.
I know who Howard Hughes is, yeah.
Yeah. And Howard Hughes had this huge connection to intelligence. I mean, he was part of like recovering the Glomar Explorer, the Russian submarine, all this crazy shit.
The U-2 spy plane.
Yeah, dude.
He had a ton of patents.
Yes. So Howard Hughes went to these two mob guys, who I forget their names, who were in Vegas, and they were like, Howard Hughes thought he could get these mob guys to take out Castro or set up a team to kill Castro. The mob guys, they go to Chicago, meet with the other head, forget the other mob guy who was in Chicago. They're meeting, and they're saying, well, this is Santo Trafficante territory, Cuba, right? Santo Trafficante, I think at that time he was in Tampa, but he was like the boss of like that area. And they meet with Santos Trafficante in the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. And Santos Trafficante is like, well, you know, I got to make sure that this is really in order. They're like the president, Nixon, who's about to be the president, is wants this done. Can you get this done for us? He's like, well, if you can prove that he really, you know, made this order, and this is not you guys just doing this. So they got a guy for a CIA employee to come down that represented Nixon to give Trafficante the green light. So Trafficante recruits these guys from this CIA operation, Operation 40, who were these anti-Castro Cubans who were conducting sabotage inside Cuba. When Castro and Che and Raul were down there, you know, doing their thing. And these Operation 40 guys, they picked a few of them. I think it was 10 or 15 of them. and they brought him to this ranch called Oaxaca Ranch, and they were and another ranch that was in South Florida, like near the Everglades, and they were training these guys in what were called triangular fire teams. So they would set up in a triangular formation of 3 shooters to take out a moving target, and this was all in plans to kill Castro. After training these guys, they went there. You know the stories. They went down to Cuba to try to assassinate Castro. They went twice. It was a failed attempt both times to kill Castro. And then later on, it was the same Cubans. So those Cubans were the ones that they tried to use to kill Kennedy. So when they wanted to assassinate Kennedy, they found out like the best shooters that we know that hated Kennedy because of all the shit that Kennedy did after the Bay of Pigs and all that stuff were these anti-Castro Cubans. They were great shooters. They knew they could cover it up, and they fucking hated Kennedy. So he was saying those were the guys who actually pulled the trigger in Dealey Plaza that killed Kennedy. Later on, there's Watergate. The guys that were caught in Watergate was Bernard Barker was one of them. He was one of the anti-Castro Cubans. Now, the way they were funding these guys at this ranch, this Oaxaca ranch in Mexico during the triangular fire team training was through a bank called the Banco Internacional. And this bank is complicated, but they were skimming money off the mob casinos, sending it to Meyer Lansky's bank in Miami, and they were wiring it from Meyer Lansky's bank to the Bank International in Mexico to pay these CIA mercenaries to train them how to kill Castro, which were eventually the same guys they used to kill the president, right? So fast forward to Watergate. One of the guys that was in the hotel that got caught had a banknote in his pocket, had a bill, right? They traced the bill back to that same bank. Now, there was an FBI guy who was trying to investigate that banknote, find out where it came from. Somehow, the guy in Nixon's staff in the White House finds out about this investigation, calls up Richard Helms in the CIA, and another guy in the FBI says, you need to meet with this guy, Mark Fent or Mark something, I forget his name. They said, you need to stop this FBI investigation into that bank account, because if you find out what was going on with those Cubans and why we were training them down in Mexico, you're going to peel off a scab and you're going to unleash a genie that we can't put back in the bottle, because they knew if they investigated that bank, they would find out that those were the guys that they used to kill Kennedy. And Nixon knew if they found out that those Cubans were the ones that did kill Kennedy, they would be able to trace those Cubans back to Nixon, and they would think Nixon was the one who tried to kill Kennedy, which he wasn't. He would use those guys to kill Castro.
So he stepped down to stop the investigation? So
no, there was a whole other thing with the investigation. There was I forget the guy's name, the other FBI guy. There was a bunch of shit involved with Watergate, but basically the idea behind Watergate, the reason that this is what Danny Sheehan says, the reason for Watergate was he wanted those guys to break in because they were going. All of Howard Hughes, who was Nixon's biggest financial backer, biggest lobbyist for Nixon, all of his, if they found out all of his stuff that was in that hotel, they would find out about the shooters. So Nixon didn't want any connection to him hiring those assassins to kill Castro, because if they found out about that, they would find out that the same guys killed Kennedy, and they would make the connection from Nixon to Kennedy.
Yeah, I understand.
They would assume that, which it wasn't true, but that was the reason for Watergate, according to Danny Sheehan. Fucking crazy complicated, right? But it's an insane story.
Okay. I mean, I thought Watergate, they were just breaking into the Democratic Party's headquarters just to try and plant bugs.
Yeah, that's the story, right? But according to Danny, it was way bigger, way deeper than that. Okay. It was because they didn't want to find out about who really killed the president. And Danny claims that there's still Cubans that are alive today, anti-Castro guys who were part of that CIA Operation 40, who actually were responsible for killing Kennedy.
So what happened with Nixon anyway? First, he ran against John F. Kennedy, and he lost. Then Kennedy got killed, and LBJ stepped in. Then LBJ, was he reelected? And,
I don't think so.
Or did he lose against? Because then Nixon runs again and wins.
Right. That's when Watergate happens. Then
once he won.
Yeah.
Because he was about to start running again. So he wants some inside information on. I thought that's the historic version
right.
is. He wanted inside information.
Yeah. There's a lot of different theories on Watergate, but this was like the wildest one that I've ever heard. And Danny Sheehan was a part of that whole investigation, so he would know. Danny actually fucking interviewed that mob guy, Trafficante, in Miami. And Trafficante told him that
this is what happened.
That's why those guys were breaking in.
What's next?
Straight from the fucking horse's mouth. It doesn't get any crazier than that. Dude, another thing about Trump is ever since that debate with Biden, I mean, that was a fucking brutal moment too. That was like, I think that was the moment after that, in that debate where he goes, I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows either. that was like, okay, this is done after that.
He was actually way more reserved than I thought he was.
That's what I'm saying. He's been super reserved, super magnanimous.
Yeah.
Since that election, right? He hasn't been typical Trump.
I think during the first presidential run or whatever you want to call it, I think he learned a lot. Like, I think you know what I'm saying? I think he learned you just can't say some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not that he's learned a ton, but he's tapered back the rhetoric. Not a huge amount, but let's say 20%, 30%. Like, he could have really been brutal to Biden, but he wasn't. But he doesn't have to be anymore. Listen, I remember one time.
No, he doesn't.
One time I was evicting this guy, and he was a former Vietnam vet. We had bought like 20. My wife at the time, we bought like 20 units, and so there's this guy who's literally got a water hose hooked up, and then when we were trying to show the apartments, he's hosing people down, and when the other tenants would come around, he'd hose them down. Like, he was just a huge nuisance, right? Yeah. And he was crazy, and so we just started evicting him. Now, he'd pay his rent, but his rent was nothing either. We wanted to raise the rent by $200 or $300. He'd been in there. He'd just been a pain in the ass. So when we finally get to, and he did everything to stop it. He hired an attorney. We went to mediation, and he's just a lunatic.
Keep going.
He was a lunatic. Well, what ends up happening is he ends up, when we finally get to court, because the problem was he's paying his rent into the court. You know what I'm saying? Like, what a pain in the ass this guy.
Right.
Because we're not evicting him because he's not paying. He's paying. That's the worst of it. He is paying, but he's such a nuisance. We want him gone.
Right.
He doesn't have a lease anymore. His lease is expired. He just wouldn't leave, but he keeps paying. So anyway, we're trying to evict him. We end up getting into court, and when we got into court, the judge comes up and he's like, okay, listen, there's this. They filed the 3-day notice. They filed the 10-day notice. They did this. You've been served. Like, well, what is going on here? Let's say the guy's name's like Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, he says, okay, what's going on? And he looks at me. He goes, Mr. Cox, he said, what's going on here? Like, I'm going to let you talk first. And I went, Your Honor, I said, I think you'll have a better understanding if you let Mr. Johnson explain. And he's okay. He's like, whatever, jackass. Like, he's like, all right, Mr. Johnson, why don't you go ahead and explain? And he's like, Your Honor, I'm a Vietnam vet, and these criminals, they're all over the place, and I use my hose so that I don't shoot them, and they're everywhere. And he rants and raves for like 5. And as he's doing it, the judge is staring at him, and at some point he looks over at me, and I go like that, and the judge goes, okay, Mr. Johnson, I think I understand what's going on here. He said, and then he
what was that?
It's the alarm for Kiriakou.
Oh.
And then
we got 5 minutes.
And then the judge goes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to allow the, blah, blah, blah. You've got 10 days to vacate or you'll be removed, blah, blah, blah. And it was over. That was it. It's over. Guy's still screaming when the judge fucking hauls ass. He walks out like they have like a side door. Judge like bolts out this side door. The guy's still screaming. We just walk away. Yeah. But it's like, that's kind of like how I felt Trump was at the thing. He's like, I don't even have to say anything. Go ahead and you answer this question. Like, the more you answer these questions, Biden, the more people understand you can't let this continue.
I mean, not even just during the debate though, but like even after the fucking assassination attempt, like he wasn't on Twitter talking all of this shit. Like,
Yeah,
calling out the fucking radical. He hasn't been as divisive as he was when he was first president.
Right.
He's been very, very reserved, and even like his statement afterwards, like saying, like giving condolences for the people that were killed, and all this stuff, like. It's interesting. And like when he talks on Thursday, it's going to be interesting because there's reports that he rewrote his script for his speech, right?
Right.
So I'm wondering if he's going to take the opportunity to come out and unite the country and not be
I think the country's
typical
so
Trump.
overwhelmingly polarized. There's nothing he can say. People don't want, they just don't want to believe. They don't. Has he won over some more people? Probably. You know, I mean, but the people that are dug in, they're lunatics. Like the people that are, they're just not. There's no reasoning with them. He's a racist. He called for this. He called for that. Like
Right.
when?
Right.
Show me the film. When did he say this? When did he say that?
He doesn't need the polarizing, divisive messaging anymore, though. He doesn't need that. It's done. He's already won. My point is,
what I'm saying is that those people that have already decided to vote for Biden, they're voting for him no matter what Trump says.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
For sure.
You know, if Biden came out and started saying just horrific things, they wouldn't change their vote.
No.
Nothing would change it.
No.
So there's nothing for him to do. He's got his base. It's more than 50%. It's going to be a landslide in the electoral vote. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I've got it. I just have to not say anything overwhelmingly stupid at this point, which I'm sure his handlers, that's an issue. You know, he's always trying to say something crazy. So they're probably like, just stick with what the teleprompter says. That's it. It's all you have to do. You walk into the White House. What do you think he's going to do to get rid of the Ukraine situation?
What do I think he's going to do?
Because on day one he's going to want to try and nip that in the bud.
I mean, I hope he does. Look, I don't know shit about how that works or like who's in charge of the Ukraine war. I know it goes deep into like the EU is involved with this and the globalists, right, as Alex would say. And there's a lot of other countries that are really invested in this war. I don't know how he would pull out of that. I think it might be somewhat easy. But there's a lot of pieces on that chessboard to move to make that happen. But just the threat of just him saying he's going to do it has people freaking the fuck out. I mean,
I think that's all you have to do is freak Putin out. You just have to get Putin to say, okay, you have to kind of go in there and say, look, you keep what you already have. That's it. What you got. That's it. And then, we're going to send in U.S. troops.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll
just
push you out.
Diplomacy, man. It's just like, I think that's the one thing that he did one of the good things that he did. John, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on and talking to us on this little. We're doing this little podcast, just trying to like react to what's been going on with the whole Trump thing and how it happened. I know you have your show that you do every day, and you guys have been covering this. What is your view on what happened on, I think it was Saturday with Trump and everything that's coming out? What is your view on everything?
I think the easiest explanation is probably the best explanation at this early stage, and that is that this was a colossal, historic screw-up on the part of the U.S. Secret Service. Let me add a little detail, too. I grew up walking distance from this location, the Butler County Fairgrounds and Farm Show. Never missed a year when I was a kid. There's nothing to do in Western Pennsylvania. And so we would go to the farm and the farm show and the fair, and it's a big deal because politicians always come and they have these events. So it's not like this is the first time anybody's ever come to Butler County. This is something that they should have been used to. Now, getting to the screw up, here you've got a guy that's not just a presidential candidate, presidential nominee, but he's a former president of the United States. And the only job of the Secret Service is to protect the candidate. That's it. And what they're telling us today is that they essentially outsourced coverage of these external buildings to the Butler County, Pennsylvania Sheriff's Department. when I first heard that, I wanted to laugh, because this is literally not something you would ever do if you are the Secret Service. And going back just a little bit, there were two major assassinations in 1968, of course. In 1972, George Wallace was shot and wounded in Laurel, Maryland. He was running for president on the American Party ticket. In 1981, Ronald Reagan was shot and grievously wounded. So after each one of these shootings, there was a top to bottom review of the Secret Service's procedures. This is the term that they're using yesterday and today, a top to bottom review. So we've gone from 1981 until Saturday with no credible attempts against the life of a candidate. Mm-hmm. So why now? How was a 20-year-old able to climb to the roof of a building within direct line of sight of the former president of the United States, stay there for quite some time, be confronted at least twice that we know of, and still get a shot off?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any kind of sense to me at all.
Right.
Major screw up.
And not only that, but after the Secret Service agents jumped on top of him and dogpiled him, they let him stand up with shoulder to head fully exposed around those guys as he barged through those Secret Service agents to like show his strength and like pump his fist to his audience. If there was a second shooter, if this was anything remotely similar to the JFK setup, if it was a triangular hit team or multiple shooters or whatever, that was a turkey shot, an easy shot for a second shooter to get off, even after that first guy was neutralized.
You are exactly right. You are 100% right. And let me add something to that, too. I happened to be with my son, my 20-year-old son, when we heard news of this attempt on Donald Trump. And he said to me, he said, about 4 weeks ago, I went to a NASCAR event in North Carolina, right? 50,000 people in this whatever it is, track. And Donald Trump was the guest of honor. So they have him stand on this balcony on top of the press area where the press is gathered to overlook the track. He's the only person wearing a red hat. He was standing out there in front of everybody. There was no security to get in. You didn't have to go through any metal detector or anything. And he turned to his girlfriend, my son did, and said, "My God, if somebody wanted to kill Trump," he said, "this would be like fish in a barrel."
Mm.
So apparently this is a bigger problem than just somebody screwed up on Saturday. This is a problem with the actual standard operating procedure of protecting a candidate that the Secret Service has implemented.
Now, you were in CIA for how many years?
15
years, and you were overseas in war zones working with armed military, taking out people like Abu Zubaydah, capturing him. And I'm sure you've been in situations similar to this where there has to be like a perimeter set up or like people that have to be on watch. How does this typically work? Do you know anything about like how the perimeters have to be set up, how wide they have to be?
Yeah, actually. And I had this conversation today with a friend of mine who happens to be a former FBI agent as well. And we were in agreement that you have to sweep literally every building. You set up a perimeter around, or that includes every building with line of sight to the candidate. And you keep sweeping it. Now, if there are buildings, multiple buildings, you have somebody on literally every single roof, just so that something like this doesn't happen. And as long ago as 10 years, we were using drones to supplement the human surveillance at places like Bagram Air Base. Bagram, you've got a prison in the center, and then there's a perimeter around that, and then you've got the living area, and you've got the working area, and there's a perimeter around that. Then you've got guys outside the fence walking that perimeter. But then you've got, 2, 3, 4 drones overhead, and somebody inside monitoring the drone coverage. Again, this is a former president of the United States, and there was no drone coverage? Like we're supposed to just accept that the Butler County, Pennsylvania Sheriff's Department was responsible for this? No, that's just not real life.
And is it possible that the sheriff's department, I mean, there's footage of the guy climbing on the roof with cops walking around the building looking at him. And then there was obviously, like everyone's aware of the report of the cop actually climbing up there and then like falling off after the guy points his rifle at him. Is there any sort of radio frequency between these cops and the Secret Service? Like you would imagine that the cop would be able just to like turn on his radio right then and there and say, shoot her.
No, in most cases, no. So in most cases, because this is just like not just even a 1-day event, it's a 1-hour event or 3-hour event altogether. The cop would radio back to his dispatch. Dispatch would be liaising with Secret Service, and then the Secret Service dispatcher would radio Secret Service. So you're going to lose, 15 seconds maybe, which is plenty of time to kill somebody. But that's how haphazardly this was arranged. And it's easy to fall into this this rut. Well, nobody's taken a shot at a presidential candidate since 1981. They're not going to do it in Butler, Pennsylvania. Let's just get through this 1 hour and then we wrap it all up and we go on to Milwaukee. I guarantee you that's what these guys were thinking.
And the sniper, there's reports that the sniper saw the guy on the roof like 5 minutes before he took the shots, and they were looking at him the whole time. And then he he was radioing his superior about it. They knew he was there, and they said, "Don't take the shot." And I assume, I don't know what it's like to be a guy who sits on the roof with a sniper for 3 hours. I can't imagine how boring that must be, especially when you're doing it like on multiple events, like throughout whatever the month. But like, I imagine there's got to be some sort of fear of maybe that guy is like a SWAT guy I don't know about on that roof. I don't want to take out like an innocent cop or something like that. What do you make of that guy being aware of the guy being there and not being able to take the shot until there was 8 shots fired?
Well, your assumption is exactly correct. So can you imagine you're a sniper for the Secret Service? You go through a 30-year career and never ever fire the weapon.
I can't fucking imagine, dude.
That's what we were saying.
It's crazy. But yeah, your thought is a good one. The sniper has to be thinking, is that one of the cops? Is that a Pennsylvania state trooper? Is it, the janitor for that building who wandered onto the roof to get a better look? Should I shoot him? If I shoot him, I'm trained to kill him. So maybe I shouldn't shoot him. I should probably radio in and say, hey, there's this guy. Now, as it turned out, rather than once shots were being fired, rather than radio back to dispatch and ask for permission to shoot, he just shot, which, thank God he did.
Right.
But the system is such that it's not efficient enough to save a candidate who's under fire. It's just not.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I got my friend Matt Cox is here. He wants to ask you a question as well.
You bet.
Does he think that it was just incompetence, or does he think that there's a possibility that it was done specifically for a reason, like to leave open, I don't know, an opportunity for someone to take a shot?
Sure. Lots and lots of people are talking about that today and yesterday. And my gut response is no, or likely no, only because an operation like that would have so many moving parts that it would be virtually impossible to carry out. And I mentioned this today to this FBI friend of mine, and she said, she's given this a lot of thought as well. And if they were going to do that, they wouldn't have outsourced it to a 20-year-old, just some local yokel from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. And they wouldn't have done it in front of thousands of people. It's just not the way they would carry out an operation like that. Not that they have in the past.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But in the event that there was an operation,
they would miss.
Yeah. They would
number one, they wouldn't if it was the military or any kind of US organization, Trump would not be here right now.
So
that's right.
Is he? So what you're saying is if it's a patsy situation where the kid is just a patsy, at the very least they're going to have snipers to take him out, to take out Trump.
You're exactly right. And there would have to be secondary and tertiary levels just in case the kid missed or the kid needed to be taken out.
Right.
You remember seeing the video of Lee Harvey Oswald saying, "I'm just a patsy," right before he was killed. That's something I think we're always going to have to be thinking about in situations like this.
Now, what do you make of? I mean, I've been watching, as well as everyone probably has been watching. I've been watching hundreds and hundreds of people's takes on what happened over the last 2 days, and it seems like an overwhelming majority of people who have been looking at this, and people, talking heads on YouTube that have been, doing a play-by-play. The consensus is that it was the United States that was behind this, or the quote deep state was behind this, because their evidence is like, look at the last 4 years of how they tried to take out Trump with all these other things, with there was Russiagate, there was the trial, the show trial in New York, then there was what else was there? The document case. Yeah, there's so many things that they've tried to do to take him out of the race, and then now you have an assassination. Well, isn't that convenient? Right? Like, that seems to be the overwhelming consensus. And I don't know, because I wasn't alive back when they tried to take out Reagan. But was it like that?
Reagan wasn't taken. Nobody tried to take out Reagan.
No, who's the guy that was shot? It was Reagan, right?
Yeah, Reagan was shot by John Hinckley.
Right. So
trying to impress Jodie Foster.
Right, exactly. So when Reagan was shot, was America talking about it the way they're talking about it right now? Like, was America thinking like, oh my God, this was America that took him out, or the deep state or whatever?
No.
No, the whole country pulled together. Reagan's popularity went into the 90s. The whole country came together.
Right.
It's so different. You and I, Danny, have talked about this in the past. I've been in Washington for 42 years. I moved here the week after I turned 18 to go to college. And it has become such an ugly, mean-spirited city. I'm not able to compare it to any other place that I've been in the world. And so that's why we have these rumors. That's why we have rational people, like people I respect, for example, going on Twitter, going on Facebook and saying it was the deep state. Well, like I said, there are so many moving parts to a conspiracy that if it was the deep state, they would have gotten him ages ago. They wouldn't have to have, trumped up federal and state charges and found this 20-year-old idiot to climb onto a roof. They would have gotten him. They would have gotten him somehow. Yeah, I've got a buddy who's a retired colonel in the Army and kind of a prominent Republican fundraiser now. And he told me over the weekend that he went to Mar-a-Lago about 6 months ago for a fundraising event. And he and his wife they not only have concealed carry permits, but they're concealed carry instructors. And so he pulls up to Mar-a-Lago, and the Secret Service stops him at the gate. And hey, folks, how are you tonight? Do you have any weapons in the car? And he said, actually, we do. We've got 2 weapons in the trunk, but they're both secured. The Secret Service guy says, I'm sorry, you can't bring them onto the ground. He said, fine. He let his wife out, drove back to the hotel, locked up his guns in the safe, and then went back to Mar-a-Lago 15, 20 minutes later. But he said, the point is, nobody ever searched the car. And if he had said, no, I don't have any guns, he could have walked right into that ballroom fully armed.
Wow.
What is the Secret Service thinking? I mean, this is a systemic problem here. It's not just what happened Saturday. It's through the entire system of protection that the Secret Service is supposed to be implementing.
Right. How much credit do you give to the idea that it could have been a foreign adversary like China, Russia, or Iran?
Right. Well, that's something that the FBI mentioned right off the bat. That it's something that they have to consider. And
how possible or how probable do you think something like that would be?
Unlikely. When John Kennedy was killed, the Soviets came to us within minutes. And at the CIA, we keep all these historical documents. You can, as a junior analyst, you can just go through them and get an idea of what it was like back then. They came to us within minutes of Kennedy being killed and saying, we swear to God it wasn't us. We swear it wasn't us. The Chinese did the same thing. And then the Cubans asked the Mexicans to tell us, look, it wasn't us.
Right.
So that's a trigger for World War III.
Absolutely.
If you try to take out a candidate for president of the United States.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just not worth the blowback potential.
Once again, you're not going to use the 20-year-old. It's the same thing. There's going to be, even if they're going to do it, it's going to be a successful operation. They're not going to leave anything to chance.
Yeah.
They're not going to put it in the hands of a 20-year-old kid.
So,
and it's not going to be from 145 yards either. It's going to be from 500 yards or 800 yards. Where
Oh, really?
You don't have any idea where it came from. If you're gonna use a professional sniper to do it, first of all, he's not going to use an AR-15 with, by all accounts, 22 or 5.56 or whatever
Rounds, right?
BBs he was shooting. Mm-hmm. If you have a professional sniper, he's going to be so far away you can't even see him, and he's not going to miss.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. What do you think? What do you think would have happened if that bullet would have hit him and taken him out? What do you think the reaction would have been? I heard a take. My buddy Julian was saying that if the bullet would have hit him, it would have been like a Franz Ferdinand moment. The bullet that took out Franz Ferdinand and started World War I. Yeah. He said it would. He said he said Civil War doesn't even do it justice. It would be far bigger.
I mentioned a few minutes ago, Danny, so many of my friends, like a lot of high school friends, for example, who still live in the area in Western Pennsylvania. These are people I've liked and respected all my life. We may not agree on politics, but we like and respect each other. We're in each other's weddings. We visit each other. You get the idea. And that's exactly what they were talking about. They would have armed themselves within moments, and they would have taken to the streets.
Right.
I think that's exactly what would have happened. Yeah. This was as close a call as we could have had.
So, I guess the idea, I understand what you're saying. If this was an intelligence operation, it would have been successful. It would not have been so sloppy. But, what about the idea that the kid could have been MK Ultra, or some sort of foreign agent could have used him and coerced him and subverted him into talking him up and saying, oh, this might be a good idea. Even if it was a failure, maybe it could at the very least incite chaos in the U.S. and disrupt the system a bit and disrupt the populace. At the very best, maybe the crazy kid gets lucky and hits his shot, but you're essentially saying that no, that's too sloppy. Even if it was just one kid that they tried to brainwash or subvert somehow, they would have had a backup option in place.
Yeah, they would have. And not every country is capable of carrying out an operation like that, especially if you're talking about MK Ultra and mind control and hypnosis and all that stuff. You're talking about 3, 4, 5 countries that are able to do it. Mm-hmm. Russia, China, Israel, North Korea. That's probably about it.
Right. We know it wasn't Israel. Israel just gave him $100 million, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Adelsons.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. 150 million, something like that.
Insane.
No, Israel. But yeah, again, the blowback potential is such that, let's say the Chinese did this.
Right.
And we were able to develop information confirming that the Chinese had done it. You're talking about a nuclear exchange being the next step if it had been successful.
Question.
And we had not the Chinese.
Matt has a question.
First off, I think it was just a 20-year-old. But,
yeah, I do too.
For the content's sake, assuming that it was I don't know, whatever you want to call it, deep state or, an attempted assassination that failed. And, if it was an attempted assassination that failed, in your opinion, do they just take their ball and go home? Or do they, and just say, hey, Trump's going to win it, we messed up? Or do they try again?
That's a good question. Again,
very good.
And I agree with you. I think it was the kid. But if it were an operation, yes, you pick up the ball and you go home. Let's use as an example
really?
The Bay of Pigs. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once you've blown it, that's it. It's done. It's over. You had your shot. It was one shot. It's over. And then you deal with the blowback. You know, that's why you got to get it right the first time. Look at the Bay of Pigs, for example. The only reason that the Bay of Pigs failed was because John Kennedy made a strategic policy decision not to provide air cover.
Right.
So we didn't say, all right, everybody, let's try it again in 2 weeks, and this time we use air cover. No, we took our lumps and went home. And that's the way it happens.
Okay, finally, maybe you can educate us numbskulls on who is this guy who's the new vice president, and what do you make of that? Can you give us some sort of like educated opinion on this guy and what this means?
Yeah, this is actually kind of a bold choice. So J.D. Vance is he was famous well before he ever entered politics. He's very young. He's 39 years old. He's a self-made billionaire from a hedge fund that he created on Wall Street. But this guy grew up in abject poverty in the Appalachia area of southern Ohio. And he was raised by his grandmother. His mother was a heroin and meth addict and was never a major part of his life. And so his grandmother stressed education, education, education. And he was a smart kid. And so he won scholarships. He went to school. He ended up going to Yale and then made it big on Wall Street. He wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy, talking about coming out of this abject poverty, but not as a lefty. He picked himself up by his bootstraps, and he did it through hard work, not because welfare paid for this or welfare paid for that. That's what Hillbilly Elegy was about. It became quite a popular and successful movie, and then he decided to go into politics. The interesting thing to me is that he was an anti-Trump Republican for a long time.
I saw that.
He wrote quite a powerful op-ed saying that Donald Trump was an idiot and a monster. And then we learned from Donald Trump Jr. just a week ago that the choice probably wouldn't be J.D. Vance because Donald Sr. has this visceral dislike of facial hair. And he had mentioned to family members he couldn't stand the thought of looking at J.D. Vance every day with a beard and mustache.
Oh, my God. That's insane.
The guy's smart. He's rich. He's self-made. He's a great campaigner. And like I say, I think this was actually a pretty bold choice.
Interesting. Well, awesome. I can't thank you enough, John. I appreciate all your insight and for answering our questions here today. It gives us some credibility here for doing this podcast.
We don't have any.
We have no business talking about this kind of shit by ourselves. So thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. Yes, sir. I love you, man, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Bye-bye. Looking forward to it.
See you, John.
I tell you what makes me feel better is how close everything we said was to what he's kind of saying. You know what I'm saying? It was pretty, not perfect, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Except for me saying, like, they're not going to take their ball and going home. He's like, oh, no, take your ball and go home. It's over.
Everyone else is. Yeah, that's what like Alex Jones was saying the opposite. He goes, they're going for fucking dig broke. In.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well.
But the other stuff.
We will see.
Yeah, the other stuff was spot on. I thought we gave some. Oh, wow.
Look at that. We can see ourselves. Look at you, Matt Cox. You look beautiful.
God
damn. Do I really look like that? I need a fucking haircut, dude.
Are you kidding me? Look when I smile.
Let me see. Let's see Matt smile.
Look
at that beautiful smile.
Look at this is
Oh, the crow's feet, Matt. You need get some Biden Botox, dude.
I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. It's embarrassing enough. I got the hair plug.
Look how great your hairline is, though.
It does look amazing.
Your hairline looks fantastic, dude.
But oh man, I need to lose some weight. Oh, did I tell you this? Oh God, if I've been hunching over, my God, Steven. You couldn't say something?
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. I look terrible.
If my wife was here, she'd be holding her shoulders back like, hold your shoulders back. You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be going on Fresh and Fit.
Oh, yeah, you told me that. Tomorrow, right?
No. This is like the 22nd. I'm sure they record. Okay. I'm sure they record them and put them out. But like I've talked to them or their business, their producer, or whatever, back and forth on the email, and and here's the thing: like I'm flying in there, and then I'm flying to Dallas because I have like a not speaking thing, but I have like a shoot that I have to do, and then I'm flying back like I'm like boom, boom, boom.
Wow,
like,
dude.
All over. I feel like a big shot.
You are a big shot.
God, that's insane. But I still haven't got the address. I mean, I'll get the address, but other than that,
It's confirmed though. It's in Miami, right?
they said it was confirmed, bro. Like I don't know. It's no, it's in Miami. It's on Brickell.
By the way, we haven't even talked about this yet. We haven't talked about this since you did it. You did the longest podcast ever recorded on Lex Friedman's channel.
No, we did talk about it, didn't we?
Yeah, but that podcast never aired.
Oh, you put it on Patreon.
Yeah.
That's how you get the Patreon people. That's right.
Exclusive.
We use Matt as a little carrot for the patrons.
What a great day for you, man.
The Patreon. That was pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean, Patreon. Sorry, the Lex Friedman thing.
what is this? Trump shooter was. Oh yeah, dude. This is so. Oh yeah. So Demolition Ranch. These guys in
He had the
Texas.
shirt. He had the shirt.
Yeah, man. I know these guys, and I was just talking to him last week, and then I just saw today the dude was wearing a Demolition Ranch shirt.
Yeah.
And now this guy's getting I don't know if he's getting a lot of shit. I don't know, but I mean, he said he's been getting a lot of like media questioning him about it.
So what?
So this is he made a statement on them wearing his shirt. Let's see what he said.
It's horrible.
Wow, the audio's terrible.
Why is it so fucking bad?
Jesus Christ. Hold on, Julian.
His audience? Oh.
Julian Dory, finger on the pulse. Give us the update. Nobody's got more inside info on the Trump assassination than Julian motherfucking Dory. He's already done 100 podcasts on this thing. He's been up for 3 days straight. Just got off a live stream with Jim DiOrio, special agent.
The most underrated podcaster on YouTube.
Yes. Julian, what's happening? Are we on air? We're on air, baby. We're on air.
Holy shit, we're on air.
We're doing it live.
Cox in the building.
What's happening, dude? What's Jimmy D say about this?
Jimmy D just dropped balls of fiery flames for 2 hours on a podcast while I was in production hell. So I'm going to listen to it back and see what he said, but it sounded really smart.
Yeah.
We were watching it. Has he lost weight?
Oh, yeah. He's lost a lot of weight, dude.
He looks way thinner.
He looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Jim 2.0 is a real thing. he's a real thing. But, yeah, as far as what we're hearing, that any inside info, so to speak, wink, wink, that I have is not go to market. It's off the record stuff. But let's just say there are some very eye-opening mistakes that occurred behind the scenes. And like I was saying on the live I did last night myself, when I talked to all these different pipe hitters who are watching.
Pipe hitters. I love that fucking word. I'm going to start using that, pipe hitters. That's fucking such a good word.
Once Dale Comstock started using that, they were all solid pipe hitters. I'm like, I'm gonna use that.
Fucking pipe hitters.
Yeah.
That can go two ways though.
Well, unless he was cracking up the first time he used it on air, and I had to turn to him and say that doesn't mean what you think it means. But but there are some eye-opening things, some serious concerns, definitely some security concerns moving forward, that, some of these guys, and I know Jim was really pounding the table on this, that there may very well be some private security to help supplement what's going on here, because just the lack of preparation and the perimeter that we saw was insane. But I had a really good call with Remy Adeleke today, and who's 12-year Navy SEAL and done all kinds of badass shit around the world. And
yeah,
and he has heard some things and seen some things that are really concerning. And, I think everyone's on the same page. They want to make sure there's no violence of any sort that occurs against either of these candidates or anyone associated with them for the next 100 days, especially.
Yeah. So
that we can just calm the fuck down as a country.
Check out this hot take. We just had Kiriakou piped in through Skype, and he was saying that if he doesn't believe this was a deep state assassination attempt. He believed it was just a lone 20-year-old psycho. He was saying that if it was a deep state operation or any kind of government agency that was doing this, he said if they failed on the first attempt, they will not try again. They'll take their ball and go home, just like the Bay of Pigs.
I agree. I think John's spot on about that. you had your shot. If that's the case, I don't know, but if that's the case, and that's what some people are saying, well, you had your shot and you missed. Because now everyone's awake to it.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh shit. They like the number of people who were inserting a quarter into the Alex Jones was right again jar. I mean, that's a big fucking jar right now.
Yeah, it's a big fucking jar.
Very critical of a lot of stuff Alex Jones does and says, but I'm one of these guys like, yo, when people are right, I'm gonna shout that from the rooftops. And Alex Jones was absolutely 150% right on this issue. They've been saying it for years. They're gonna come after Trump. They're gonna try to take him out, kill him. Deep state government's coming after him, and like
globalists.
Whether or not it was actually who he thinks it was, that's up for debate. But nonetheless, we watched the guy come legitimately at a minimum of 2 inches from being the next Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Which how about Eric Prince stealing my line?
I love that, bro. I used your line 3 or 4 times during this podcast with Matt, but I credited you every time.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I always credit your show too.
We love it.
Inspiration.
Anyone listening, go watch the Julian Dory live stream that he did. 35-minute fucking rant, no camera switching, straight from the fucking top, right up the top of his head, no notes. Just freestyled 38 minutes of fire on this whole thing, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And I mean, I don't think that I've heard a better take than from what you said. It seems like everyone's watched your video and then just kind of like went, riffed off that and went from everything that, all the thoughts that you had and all the perspectives that you had. You called all of your contacts, your military contacts and your, FBI people that you've had on your show and got all their opinions and condensed it into one very unique perspective. And it was fucking great, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, man.
Danny called me.
Came out okay.
I just called Matt Cox and said, hey, we got to go do a podcast.
Yeah, that's it, baby.
Because
call in the A-team.
me and Matt Cox just watch a bunch of TikToks and then develop an opinion off that.
Danny, I'm going to disagree with that. I know more about this situation. You're the one watching TikToks, not me.
Oh, God. All right, bro. Well, we're about to wrap up. My phone's on like 2%, but I'll hit you up in a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Later.
I think I figured out the audio.
Oh, we did? All right, here we go. Demolition Ranch guy responding to the shirt.
Here we go.
Wow, 1.4 million views in 4 hours.
Can't imagine. So, as a lot of you guys know, and we were shocked and confused to find this out, the shooter who tried to assassinate Trump was wearing merch from my channel, wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. And that sucked to see that. Yeah, that was rough. So this t-shirt, we also own a t-shirt company.
Bunker.
It's based out of my hometown right here. And my friends work there, and we make these shirts. We print them here in Texas and ship them all over the world. I've seen my shirts in every continent. I got a picture like 2 weeks ago of a guy wearing my shirt in Antarctica. And so we don't vet the people who buy our shirts, obviously. It'd be impossible to, just like Nike doesn't vet who buys their shoes. I wish I could. I would love to keep people like that from buying, wearing, being associated with that article of clothing. Like I wish he couldn't get a shirt, but it happened. And I think the difference in a gunman wearing a pair of Nike shoes and a gunman wearing my t-shirt is this brand is much more personal to me than Nike is to its executives. And so to see my name next to the shooter's name, it sucks. And I wish we could keep that from happening. So no matter what side you're on politically, none of us want violence. This channel was never meant to incite violence or hate. It never has, it isn't, and it never will be a channel that does that. I don't want any violence or hate anywhere around me. I have a wife and little kids. I want them to be safe and secure forever. And the videos I put out, I want to make sure that is the same for everyone who watches my videos, that they aren't in any more danger because of my videos, of course. And I know you guys know that. I have 11 million subscribers who have been watching me for over 10 years and know that I am not that kind of person. This is mostly for the people who are just tuning in to see if I am a guy that is trying to make people do stuff like that. So I am not. Obviously, I don't have to explain that to you guys who know me, but I feel like I might need to say that for those who don't.
It's crazy. That's an unfortunate situation. The guy was just trying to look like a Trump supporter and wearing like a American shirt.
Yeah.
There's probably guns on the shirt or whatever. He was trying to blend in.
Right.
And unfortunately, he picked a fucking Demolition Ranch shirt. I don't think anyone blames that guy. You can't blame him.
No, but it sucks for the guy though.
Well, because people are going to, but the people that are reaching out are just idiots.
Of course.
Yeah, the people that are reaching out to him saying,
news,
you.
People trying to make a story out of nothing. It's just, they're probably like mainstream news media type people trying to make a story out of this shit and get clicks.
I forget, what was the chick's name that was on, I forget the guy's name. He's got kind of a conservative show, and she goes on there and she's like, why do you think some neo-Nazi or something subscribed to your channel? And he's like, are you joking? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
people are so out of touch, man.
Like, how does that have anything to do with me? So
it's crazy, man. The majority of like the mainstream media, the shit you see on television, or the shit that you see being written about in like the mainstream publications like New York Times and Washington Post or all this, these are all opinions and pieces that are written by people who live in fucking New York and Los Angeles. Right?
All right.
That's the consensus of that. That's like, what's happening when it's all coming from those places. And they think that their opinions are more important than the people living in the rural parts of America.
Right. Oh, yeah, because just like they say, like all Trump supporters are stupid,
right.
Stupid, poor, white people.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I have a college education.
Right. And I think people are figuring that out too. And like we were talking about earlier with the whole Civil War thing, like I think that guy made that video about Civil War and like California would be against Texas and they would cut off California. I don't know. I think California, I mean, it's a blue state, but those are like condensed into like the cities of LA and San Francisco. From my experience, the majority of people that I know from California, they're like either right wing or they're like closet conservatives. Like
there's
the people that are
closet conservatives. I know that.
It's like that weird little bubble of LA where it's like you have to be liberal to be able to fit into that industry and to keep your job and to keep getting work,
Well, what you have to understand that he's basing it on the fact that like, hey, like the whole state, the state government is at war. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a farmer in California, you're saying I disagree. Well, that doesn't mean that the National Guard the California National Guard isn't going to go to war. They're saying that, hey, the people in charge of that state's
the National Guard,
are going to go after. Like that has nothing to do with like.
That's true.
There's always going to be
population.
People,
it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, there's tons of people that are going to be, that are going to be caught within the state saying I disagree with what Florida is doing, but I'm trapped within Florida. And there's a civil war. Do I uproot my entire family and try and move to a blue state right now, or just hunker down?
Right.
So, but that's what if you watch that video, it was so great. It really, you can watch it on the way home. I think it's like 45 minutes, 30 minutes. You'd be super.
I think we actually you reached out to him to have him on your podcast. I tried
to reach out to this guy.
I'm gonna try to get him on here too.
We tried to get Tyler to reach out to him. Tyler can't get in touch with him.
Really?
Yeah, and Tyler's tenacious.
Dude's a fucking ghost. Did you see the video of fucking Jack Black?
Yeah. But I didn't.
Jack Black was like saying, "Find a better shooter. Don't miss next time."
Yeah. I mean, I could barely hear what he was saying, but I read the comments that were basically that's what he was saying. It was just like, here's the problem when you surround yourself with yes men. You start to think that everything you say is clever and funny, and that everybody agrees with you.
Yeah.
That's why these people, when they go on like Fox News or CNN, or they go to these panels and they start spouting their propaganda, and when people push back, they're like shocked. Of course they're shocked.
Right.
I have a group of 20 people that I surround myself with that I talk to nearly every day, and they tell me everything I say is wonderful. They never push back. So the moment there's pushback, they immediately typically crumble, or they start going, you know, they get upset and they start calling people names, or they, you know, that's Jack Black. I'm sure he surrounds himself with a bunch of people that say he's just wonderful and everything he says is hilarious and they agree with everything he says, and then he says it in the wrong forum, and it's like, oh wow, that's not coming off well.
Yeah.
It was Kyle Glass, not Jack Black. Kyle is his partner in Tenacious D.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Kyle is this guy.
That's that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But wasn't Jack Black just recently at some like political convention? They hired him. They hired him at
he's super left.
They hired him at like one of those conventions, and he got up basically talking about how great Biden was and how fucking Trump was Hitler.
Yeah, these people say these things.
And
that are just
who's the other guy?
ludicrous.
De Niro.
Oh yeah,
Robert
De Niro. What a meltdown that was! Like what a
holy shit,
colossal fuck up! Like it's the same thing. You surrounded yourself with all these people that think you're wonderful, and then you say, "Hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to hold a press conference and I'm going to do this and say this," and then it backfires on you. You know?
Oh, this is his video.
Is that what this is?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Is it this thing?
What does he say? Turn the volume up. Hit the little volume button, bottom left of the screen. There you go.
Only the city, but the country, and eventually he could destroy the world.
No, stop. What are you doing?
But we vowed we would not allow terrorists.
You hear the
I
people?
owe this city a lot.
You hear the people?
What are they saying?
And that's
Fuck
why
Joe
it's
Biden.
so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city.
Your city.
I don't know where he belongs, but he certainly doesn't belong here. We New Yorkers used to tolerate him when he was just another grubby real estate hustler masquerading as a big shot.
It's all right. You can pause it.
It's the same thing. You know, whenever most of these guys come up, like they never have anything of substance to say.
Right.
It's always like he's Hitler. He's a racist.
Yeah.
He's a clown. He's a liar.
It's a
Give
weird
me some examples, bro.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like it's a weird psychological thing where they can use Hollywood to propagandize politics. Like if we can get a bunch of famous actors that make a lot of money and that everyone sees on movies all the time to say something, then people are going to fall in line, because if these people think this, then we should think this.
Right.
But since when is the prerequisite to be an actor to be a fucking thinker?
Right.
Or to be like some political expert or like
Your job is to
foreign
pretend to be-
policy expert.
Your job is to pretend to be other people.
Right.
Like that's it.
Exactly. That's what their job is. Exactly. That's exactly what it is, to pretend to be other people. And Trump is, I mean, his life has been like, is he a textbook narcissist? Yes.
Yeah.
But
he's got some issues.
He's got a few issues.
Some issues.
He's got a few issues. But he's been fucking buying and selling and building real estate his whole life. Hotels, casinos, golf courses. I mean, say what you want about the guy or put whatever your politics are. Like, I think it's undeniable at this rate to say that the guy doesn't love America.
Oh no, I have no doubt in my mind that he loves America. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, people don't like him. What I love is that when he goes out and he's like, it's funny, when I was a Democrat, you people loved me. You know what I'm saying? When he was in New York, when he was a Democrat for 40 years and he was donating to all the Democratic parties, they loved him. All the candidates loved him. And then he said, I think I'm going to run as a Republican. I feel like I have more those types of values. Suddenly he became the, you know, oh, you're a bastard. Well, when I was writing you those checks, you didn't say that.
Dude, they got so many ways to try to assassinate him. It's scary. Like, there's the shootings, like obviously being exposed in public areas surrounded by buildings, right? That's number one. Number two is poisoning. Is he just fucking eating anything people are giving to him? Or are you like super paranoid now?
You got to have the Secret Service
That's got to
taster.
be the worst way to fucking die, right? In a fucking room where no one else is there, you ate some pudding and you just fucking fell over.
Pudding. Where do you get pudding? The guy, listen, you could just poison McDonald's. He loves McDonald's.
Right.
You know, that's how I want to go out, though, eating like a
Do you think he
couple
has
of
a guy
cheeseburgers.
that has to taste test the food to make sure it's not poison?
Yeah, I need a Secret Service. Listen, you saw that tubby little chick that was in front of him.
Yeah,
she'll
try. She was cowering behind him.
Yeah, she'll try something. If you said, "Hey, would you want to eat a quarter of my
hey,
Big
lady,
Mac?"
Hey, lady, take a bite of this Whopper.
She's never seen a Whopper that she didn't. She wasn't willing to try.
Oh God! And then they got tons of other like truck bombs, poisoning the food. There's so many other ways to kill the guy. But airplanes, CIA is synonymous. Is famous for assassinating people in airplanes.
What
taking
about
their planes down?
I was gonna say I love
like is he getting on his fucking air like the balls
they think
after
circled
that,
Washington a couple times.
the balls he's flying at least 2 times a day out, granted he's flying on his own plane, but like if I'm him and I'm flying twice a day across the fucking country, I got my plane surrounded by cameras. I got security watching the cameras 24/7 to make sure no one approaches my goddamn plane. So everyone who gets on the plane, whoever, if they have, I don't know if they have like a flight attendant on this private plane or like the pilots, like crazy screenings for those people every time they get on the plane to make sure there's no like suitcase bomb or anything like that.
You keep thinking, you have to understand all of that stuff means that the bomber or that the assassin is willing to die too.
Yeah.
That's a huge
yeah, true.
There's not a lot of people who are like, yeah. Oh, what? Yeah, you're going to give me $100 million? Okay, give me the suitcase.
Right.
Like,
that's true.
I'm going to be killed.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? I don't care how much money you give me.
Right.
Yeah. It's
surface to air missile.
I mean,
blame it on Russia.
I'm sure there's lots of ways to take him out.
Yeah.
But once again, they'll probably take their ball and go home. I mean, at this point, it's too late.
It's too late. He's too far in. He's too far in.
Let's assume that this was some kind of a coordinated attempt to assassinate him, and they do take their ball and go home. There's still a lot of crazies out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like some crazy might still just get him. I mean, I think the kid was just a 20-year-old crazy.
Yeah.
But there's still and either this has done one of two things. It's either, for some of those people, it's either had them say, wow, look how close this guy got. I can do this. Or they've said, I'll never even get close enough in it. So, you know what I'm saying? So some people it may have emboldened them, and some people it may have said, oh, I'm not willing to be killed. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, this kid, he had a perfect shot, couldn't do it, and ended up dead. No, not interested.
Right.
So, yeah, I think he probably, in November, he wins. And that's it. Mm-hmm. He wins, and Biden steps down, and he
end
becomes,
the wars.
And
we end all the wars and live happily ever after.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think he probably stops fucking with Iran. He probably where else are we? We got Iran. We got the Israel Gaza. That's already kind of on autopilot. He'll probably give him some money, and then just put his support behind them, and then. As far as Ukraine is concerned, I think he's probably going to have a very harsh talk with Putin and say, hey, look, like you keep what you've got, turn around. You got, look, he's probably just kicked the ball down the road. Mm-hmm. Like you're not doing anything on my watch. Or then we're just going to put a bunch of troops, and then Putin will say, well, then we'll nuke you. And he'll say, right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go. And then Putin's going to go, fuck, never mind. I'll just keep what I've got. And I'll, and basically Trump kicks the ball down the line and hopes that he can fortify it over the next 4 years and hold what they've got. That's it. Like, I think that's probably because I don't see him going in and telling Putin, get all your shit and go home, and Putin being okay with that. But I think he says, hey, you keep what you've got. Right. Like, this isn't going to happen on my watch, and I'll throw all the American troops in there because fuck NATO.
Yeah.
And then Putin goes, fuck. Okay. That's the best case scenario. That's really the best case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if anyone's got a better chance to solve this thing diplomatically, I think he's going to be incentivized to do that, and I think he probably can do it.
Even though the funny thing is, even though Biden has made it abundantly clear he doesn't mind getting into a war,
right?
He's just limited on what he's doing. It's very, like, and it's very
not only that, he's actively avoiding that. Like there was multiple peace talks early on in this whole war where there was a victory Ukraine had over Russia early on, an early battle where Russia was on their heels, and one of the top generals in the military was basically saying like, now's the time to go to the negotiating table. We can actually negotiate a fucking ceasefire here and end this thing. And Biden's White House was like, fuck off. No way.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
John Mearsheimer talks about this endlessly. So I don't know, man, but I think if anyone's going to solve these world problems, I think me and you are going to do it right here on this podcast. So they need to get a hold of us and get us in Washington, get us in the White House.
Two guys that know about 3% of what's really happening.
How long did we just do? Like that was like a 3-hour podcast, man. I thought it was going to be an hour, but we went.
It was a 2.5.
I'm a talker.
2.5. That was close.
Yeah.
That was close. 2.5. That's great. Cool, man. Well, thanks for Matt. This was fun. Shout out to your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. I got a YouTube channel.
Killing it. You're getting
it's doing pretty good.
You're blowing up, dude.
It is doing pretty good.
You're doing how many podcasts a week now?
Well, I mean, we're posting 3, sometimes 4.
But you're recording how many?
4.
That's nuts, dude.
Sometimes more.
You are a fucking machine.
Listen, I had one today. I don't know, the guy, and I've had a couple of these where like the person, they're like, oh, like, hold on, I'm going to smoke a fucking fatty before I start. And, I'm like, because you're texting. Let's say it's not in person, but let's say it's a remote. Well, sometimes they are in person. Like the guy gets stoned in the car and they show up and they sit down. And then it's like I don't know why these guys think that's a good idea. I guess because they've never smoked. They never got, whatever. They've never smoked some dope, sat down, and then tried to tell their story, obviously. They're usually hanging out with their friends watching TV. Well, when you sit down and try and start thinking, chronologically and telling your story, it breaks down. You realize right away, like, this is a bad idea, bro.
Yeah.
Like, so they're not all Bozak. Like, Bozak will take, like, a ton of stuff, a ton of fucking drugs and be perfectly fine.
Well, not the first podcast he didn't hear. I gave him 2 gummies and he was blasted.
Oh, was he? Oh, I thought he
yeah.
did. He was fine. I thought he was kind of fine. You were like, oh, this guy's not going to be able to move.
Well, no,
but
even you said after his first podcast, you're like, he was all over the fucking place.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But he was still semi-functional.
Oh, yeah. Normal person wouldn't be able to tell.
This guy's texting me, telling me, like, he's going to, hold on, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to light up one real quick. And I went, yo, bro, I said, that's probably not a good idea. I said, I've had multiple people who have done that, and they've been doing this for a few years now. Like, it never works out well. He's like, oh, I'm just fucking around. I'm not going to do that. Just give me 5 minutes. And then he gets on there. We went an hour. And I'm going, hey, and here's the thing. Like, I saw your paperwork. So I've seen your paperwork. Like, I know what you're telling me is true, that you did get this much time. All of these things did happen. You were charged with these crimes. I've read the articles, but when I'm asking him questions, he's like, he's like, yeah, bro, like I got arrested like I don't know what he said, 8 times. And I said, like, well, like for what? Like, like a bunch of stuff. Like what? You're like, I don't know, man, like a lot of different things. Like anyway, so then, and he just kept going. And then there was another time where he was like, oh, I was making this much money. Mm-hmm. And I remember the article had said he had made several $1 million. And I was like, yeah. So I was like, so what are you spending that money on? He's like, stuff like, we're like, I mean, I don't really know.
The bar is low, huh?
And I'm like, you made $5 or $6 million and you don't know what you spent any of it on? Did you buy cars? Like, I don't know. I mean, and I was like, I've read the articles. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, he was so fucked up that I kept thinking he'll get better. I finally just said, listen, bro, we got to stop. And I put it on pause. I said, listen, how do you feel you're doing right now?
You said that.
Yeah. I said, how do you think? No. And he goes, not good, man. Not good. He said, like, I listen, I know you told me not to, but I got fucked up beforehand. I was super nervous, a lot of anxiety. I'm anxious. And and I went, yeah, I said, here's the problem. I'm asking you questions that you should know the answers to. And you're like, I don't know. Like, you don't know? You don't know that when you were at the counter and you used a credit card and the guy said, I got to call the manager, whether or not he called the manager? Yeah, bro. Like, I can't remember. You can't remember whether this is a huge deal. And I go, I mean, bro, like, I'm sorry, but I said, I don't think you're bullshitting. I read everything. I know what's going on. I know you got arrested. I know what happened. I said, but you got to do better, bro. And he goes, yeah, and he just, next thing you know, you see him moving, boom, he just disappeared. He
just exited.
He disconnected.
Wow. So you're gonna post it? Now people are gonna want to watch it.
No, it's horrible, bro. And the worst thing is like it would be different if I thought you're fucking bullshitting me. But he sent me all this stuff, and I've read all the stuff, and there were newspaper articles, and he's in them. And he sent me like his paperwork from being arrested and what he was charged with in his indictment. Like, this is true. You just got so overwhelmingly fucked up, and you were so anxious you could not tell your story.
Right.
And so I texted him. I said, hey, bro, I don't know what happened. I think you just disconnected. I said, look, I get it. I said, do you want to reschedule this? He's like, bro, let me just think about this. Like, I don't know. I shouldn't have got fucked up. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. And he apologized, and I get it. But it was just like, like these guys that come on like I said, the bar is low. And this guy has an amazing story, by the way. Like, it's a dark web. Guys on my channel love dark web fraud kind of story. Oh, man, guys.
Do you think you're ever going to venture out of true crime and cover some more stuff?
I did once or twice. I've done some like UFO stuff, right? And like a few of them did really well. Like, we'll probably want one of my top 10 videos is probably like a UFO video.
Yeah.
But then I did a few more, and then they start very quickly. They start dropping. They don't get a lot of views. And then every time I venture out, like I'll venture out every once in a while. Some guy's got a crime story. Like, it's almost like he's trying to work in his crime story. Like like he did 6 months or.
What else are you interested besides true crime stories?
I just like.
What do you like? What other type of stuff are you like interested in talking about? Or you love talking about China. We've done a bunch of China podcasts.
I feel like I'm over China. And I just don't, if luckily I typically have a little bit more knowledge than the person I'm talking to. So you can semi-sound like you know what you're talking about. But, and the problem with China too is that like there's so many things going wrong right now, and it's just getting worse and worse. Like, I'm just interested in like, it's such an interesting time to be alive right now.
It really is, dude.
And maybe it's not even that interesting, Danny. Maybe it's just that the access to the information is so overwhelming at this point. Like, it was probably always this interesting back in the 70s and 80s and the 90s when I grew up. There's
no internet.
There was no internet,
media.
so I don't have a clue what's going on 3 states away. But
now it's just you wake up, you fucking grab your phone, and you're instantly drowning in information. Yeah. It's insane, dude.
I'm also super interested in like this whole how in Japan. That there's tons of just abandoned houses and their working class is disappearing, and all these people are old. Like, there's nobody to replace these jobs, and that's happening everywhere. It's happening in Japan. Too. It's happening here. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it's neo-feudalism, dude.
It's insane. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen when there's not enough people in Japan to pay into their Social Security style system to pay the people that are retired? Like, what's going to happen when? Same thing with here. Like, what happens when there's not enough people to pay in to support the people that have been paying in?
Right.
I mean, they're like, oh, it's going to collapse. Like, they're not going to let it collapse. But they basically just sent enough money to Ukraine that you could have fixed it.
Right.
So I know they'll fix it, but it's like, how? And so those things worry me, but unfortunately I'm not smart enough to come up with a solution or have.
You don't give yourself enough credit, bro. You're super smart. Everyone I talk to, they brag about how smart you are.
I'm just because I'm a con man. They just don't know. They don't know. I'm fooling them.
No, you're smart.
Like, what's gonna happen, bro?
Yeah, I don't know. And also, do you see that they're talking about? There's like reports of the Military Times talking about like bringing back the draft. And there's lots of countries like France and Germany that are talking about bringing back the draft.
Yeah, nobody wants to be in the military anymore.
They're protesting. I think it's getting so bad they're protesting about it. They're like seriously contemplating bringing back the draft.
But there are other countries where you have to go in for 2 years or 4 years or 6.
Yeah.
You have to.
Right.
And here listen, people. When my mother would tell stories, this is during World War II. She was a little kid in World War II, like 6, 7, 8 years old. She remembers when they put out flyers in the newspaper came out, and they said, "Listen, any extra pans that you have, they're going around. And this isn't like government. Like they had guys in a little outfit. It's the government, but like they'll get like a truck.
Right.
We're bringing a truck around through all the city neighborhoods in these blocks in this area for the next week. If you have extra pots and pans, bring them outside and give them to us." They're building Liberty ships out of them. Could you imagine if right now they said, "Hey, we're going through your neighborhood. If you have extra metal pans, donate them." We're not buying them. You're giving them for the war effort. And you know what? They had so many of them they didn't know what to do with. If they did that now, nobody'd give anything.
Hell no.
They'd be like, "Oh, fuck you." It's like, you don't realize how good you have it. They didn't have it 1/10 as good as we have it now, and they're giving everything they can. We got 4 pans, but we can live off of 1. I got 3 kids to feed, and I got 1 pan. Fuck it, give the other 3 pans. I want to help build a ship to help defeat Nazi Germany. And now, people wouldn't donate $1.
No.
You know, it's so sad. And they won't. The real problem is like with the U.S. Like, I think the real problem is, and this is what really sucks, is that the U.S. is so isolated, we'll never be invaded. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
we're surrounded by 2 oceans.
Right. Like we've got the best, we
have the best geographical setup.
Right. So we're always going to be in a great position. The problem is economically we may be devastated, and that's what China and Russia and everybody's working on, right?
Absolutely.
But like in Europe, they've been invaded so many times. At least they have that fear, you know? And so just like that, I forget his name. He's a British politician where he's like, other countries they're not teaching their children to hate their country. You know, like they're not, in Russia, they're not preaching to hate Russia and hate the government of Russia and the country of Russia. Like in the United States, you're being raised to hate your own country.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's just so sad when I see
it goes to what Bustamante has said on this podcast many times is we need an enemy to be able to unite. It's like the 9/11 thing. It's like that 9/11 showed us, a real existential threat, and people banded together like no other after 9/11. And we haven't had anything like that. We don't really have an enemy, so we fight ourselves. Those countries over there in Europe, they've been through so much hell in the last 100 years that it's like, I mean, even if you're like in your teens, there's like, you have your relatives telling you about it. You have the epigenetic fucking fear built into you of what's been happening in that part of the world. You're surrounded by other countries and other foreign governments and militaries all the time.
And you see these atrocities every decade or so. There's some atrocity where one country's invading another one, and then they're wiping out an entire race or trying to. And you're like, like the Serbs, when they invade, Croatia and the Serbs, and then they're going around with hit squads. Like, it's possible. It's happening a couple hundred miles or kilometers away or whatever you call it, wherever they are. I forget what the system is. Kilometers. Yeah, it's not far away. Like, oh my God, that's only 2 countries away. Like that's a 5-hour drive, and I could be there. And right now they've got hit squads going around killing Croatians. Like, but we're so far removed that we just think that could never happen. So the idea of saying, hey, there's a draft, and people freaking out like, you can't make me this. You can't, like, I'm not doing that. Like, bro. What are you going to do if they show up on our borders? The problem is they're not going to show up on our borders.
And that's the problem. And if there was a draft, like, the problem is people are waking up now to how much bullshit is wrapped up in these wars and how it's just fueling this military industrial complex and growing. It's just a mechanism to grow our GDP and dominate the rest of the world and install democracies in the rest of the world. Like, we can't just worry about ourselves.
Did you see?
So why would you want to be drafted into this fuckery? Right?
I mean, I hear you.
What are you fighting for? You're fighting for some billionaires, like, and you're fighting for this fucking fake democracy of people running this fucking brain dead puppet that we don't know who the hell's running it, but they obviously their moral standards aren't what they used to be in this country as far as leadership goes.
Did you see this? Did you ever watch the series Fallout?
No.
Oh my God, Steven?
Oh fuck yes!
I heard it was great though.
Right? It's so.
You know what? I think you told me about this before. I meant to watch it and I just didn't.
It is. It's so.
I feel so. It sucks. I don't get to spend as much time watching good shows anymore.
What's great is that it's everything you just said. It's like capitalism and the industrial complex gone wild. Like in the 50s. Like, what if it didn't taper off? You know, instead it goes wild, and then it gets to such a point where they start a nuclear war because they built these bunkers, and we can survive the war. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's insanity. Like
but the problem is the bunkers. It's going to be all the billionaires and the fucking Joint Chiefs of Staff and all the politicians flying around in their jet with their fucking pocketbooks full of all this lobbying money, and while us. The working class blue collar podcasters like
we don't make it.
We don't make it.
Blue collar. He just said blue collared podcasters.
Not you, man. You just went up at the tax bracket. I know what's going on with you, Matt. You're not classified as blue collar anymore. But anyways, thanks again. This was a great podcast.
You got to watch these.
I know. I don't have time, man. I'm raising two kids. I got fucking. I don't have the luxury of time that you and Julian have.
Your wife is raising
to
those
study
kids.
all this shit and spend all this time. My wife's raising the kids. You're right. She is raising the kids. She is raising the kids. But I'm busy too, man. I do a lot of shit with my kids. I'm not a fucking absent father.
When are you gonna cut up that sizzle reel?
We just got done filming it, Matt. Give us a break.
He has to pace himself for a week.
Yeah,
I need a week-long breather.
Yeah.
We have to hire for 45 minutes.
We have to hire an editor. So if you're an editor out there and you're watching this, we are now hiring an editor to cut up a sizzle reel for one of Matt's books that we're turning into a pitch for a television series or a documentary.
Whatever.
Either way, hit us up.
A series? No, not a series.
Maybe not. It might be a 4-part deal. Who knows?
More like a doc. More like a doc.
Like a docu-series.
Yeah, like a limited doc series. Yeah.
Yeah. All based on the story of you meeting Ephraim Deveroli from War Dogs in Prison and his scam against Warner Brothers to
writing the book,
sue them into oblivion,
conning
you into writing the book,
the lawsuit, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's super good.
And we've been filming it for the last few months.
Yeah.
We interviewed Deveroli. We interviewed Pete Rossini. We interviewed FBI agent Jim Diorio. We interviewed you.
Yeah.
Who else?
Packhouse.
Yeah, I already mentioned Packhouse, didn't I?
Okay.
Yeah. He was one of the first.
I thought you said Deveroli. Sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah, we didn't interview Deveroli. We interviewed Packhouse.
Yeah. But yeah, we want to put together a sizzle reel. It should be super cool. But we need a talented
editor to help us out.
Yeah. For what do we need? 5 minutes? 3 minutes? 5 minutes?
5 minute sizzle.
5 minute sizzle.
Yep.
Could be banging. And I've actually already written out a semi, sizzle. So kind of a loose leaf, kind of like how I thought it should go.
How we can edit it and
but it doesn't
draw it out.
Yeah, but whatever whatever somebody comes up with something better. I mean, I'm a novice. I don't really know what I'm doing as far as the sizzle is concerned. Right. But we've definitely got the footage.
Beautiful.
Thank God Steven was here to shoot it. And
yep, Steven did most of the work. Steven set it all up. Steve was the cinematographer. And
Danny drove us to Miami.
I just was the driver, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, tell everyone where they can find your YouTube channel, follow your podcast, all that stuff. Let's wrap it up. I gotta get the fuck out of here. It's almost 9 o'clock.
Listen, to be honest with you, you guys can do better. I'll be honest. It's Matt Cox Inside True Crime. If you have some time, check it out.
4 podcasts a week. Matt's a goddamn workhorse. Knocking it out. We'll link it below. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Mwah.